Morning.
I'm going to call the meeting to order for the October 24th County Commission meeting, and I'm going to start by asking Bishop J. Tilton if he will come forward for the invocation, and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Paul Adams-Ack. Please rise if you can.
Our Father in heaven, Father, how grateful we are to be gathered here together today to discuss the dealings of Putnam County and to have this opportunity to exercise our rights to discuss and to understand the things that will help this county go forward. Now, Father, we ask you please bless everybody here with a spirit of unity and understanding, but that always that there will be togetherness in our community and love one for another as thou would have. Now, Father, we ask you please be with everybody who might need comfort, who might have need to mourn, that they will feel thy loving arms around them in all that they do. Father, we're so grateful for the knowledge that we have of thee, and we just say and ask for these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bishop. Thank you, Commissioner Adams-Ack. The chair will entertain a motion for approval of the minutes as listed on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of item 2A, the Board of County Commission regular meeting September 26th and the Board of County Commission special meeting October 4th, the minutes of that meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or changes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. Next, we're going to move into presentations, and we're going to start the first presentation with Commissioner Harvey. Wayne, would you and Ben and David and y'all like to come forward and join him at the podium, please, sir? Yes, sir, absolutely. I didn't really know who else you wanted me to call up. Well, I'm glad you brought Gina. I'd have been in trouble.
Mr. Chairman, before I get started, I'd like to take a point of privilege to say Danny Martinez was a big instrument in my life and invested in me quite heavily. My grandfather and Mr. Martinez, Mr. Danny, rode to work together back in the early days of the paper mill. My grandfather came out of Plattsburgh, New York to start the tissue side of Hudson Pulp and Paper. So I've known him since I was born, and fine gentleman. So if it pleases, Mr. Chairman, fellow board members, community and family members, friends, proclamation number 2023-137, Putnam County, honoring the life and legacy of Daniel A. Danny Martinez. Whereas it is with profound respect and heartfelt appreciation that we commemorate the life and enduring contributions of Daniel A. Danny Martinez. And whereas Daniel Martinez, a native of Tampa, Florida, embarked on a journey of service and excellence that began with his graduation from Hillsborough High School in 1946, followed by honorable service in the United States Army, where he was discharged as sergeant in 1948, reflecting his early commitment to our nation. And whereas his pursuit of knowledge and determination led him to the University of Florida, where he earned a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering in 1952, setting the stage for a life of remarkable achievement. In the company of his wife, Katie, and they made their home in Palatka on June 23rd, 1952, and embarked on a professional journey that began as a research chemical engineer at Hudson Pulp and Paper Corporation, a journey that ultimately transformed into a legacy of service and leadership. And whereas Danny's unwavering dedication and capability continued to shine through, propelling him to the position of Senior Vice President, Pulp and Paper Manufacturing at Georgia Pacific, with oversight of 13 U.S. plants, 4 in Great Britain, demonstrating unparalleled leadership and commitment. And whereas beyond his remarkable professional journey, Danny was a pillar of the community, engaging in numerous civic and community organizations, serving on the boards, and contributing significantly to organizations such as Atlantic National Bank, Putnam Community Medical Center, St. Johns River Water Management, First Union Bank, Capital City Bank, Placa Housing Authority, Putnam County Nursing Home Authority, the Florida Chamber, Rotary Boys Ranch, Rotary Foundation, Haven Hospice, Rotary of Palaca, St. Johns River State College Foundation, Haven Hospice Foundation, and many more. Whereas the legacy of Daniel A. Danny Martinez extends far beyond professional achievements, touching the lives of countless individuals through his selfishness and dedication. His enduring impact on our community is a testament to the profound difference one person can make in the lives of many. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that we, the Board of County Commissioners of Putnam County, honor and express our deepest respect and appreciation for the exceptional life and profound contributions of Daniel A. Danny Martinez. Further, Danny's legacy will forever resonate in our hearts and within the fabric of our community. And in recognition of this dedication and service, we proclaim Tuesday, October 31st, 2023, as Daniel A. Martinez Day in Putnam County, done, ordered, and adopted this 24th day of October 23. Mr. Chairman, I move approval of this proclamation.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously.
I don't know which way to stand.
Whatever you want to do.
So it's hard to believe, listening to this, that I was part of only 2/3 of all this that was mentioned. For my dad, at least recently, everything was about Putnam County. I'd call him up, find out how he's doing. Hey, Dad, what's going on? Hold on just a minute. I got a phone call. That's the way it always was when would call and check on him. All about Putnam County. I don't know of anybody that was more giving besides my mom, and I always go around telling everybody I was very proud for him to be my dad. So on his behalf, thank you very much. He's smiling at this, and then he wants everybody to get back to work.
That's right. That's right.
We're going to do but here, I'll do it. Let's do this. And then we're going to do one with the chairman. Okay, come
Wayne,
on up here.
before
We'll
y'all
get-
sit down, would you come up and we'll get a picture with the board and what have you? Go down.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you for that opportunity.
Did a great job. Okay. Hard to follow that up. We're going to move down the agenda to the next item, and Commissioner Bill Pickens is going to read the next proclamation.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman Turner. Okay, is there a group that wants to come up? and stand at the podium, and I'll meet you after I read the proclamation.
Radio Technology Week proclamation, please come forward, anybody that's here for that.
Okay, Putnam County Proclamation number 2023-129, National Radiologic Technology Week. Whereas the health of our citizens is a major concern and responsibility of healthcare professionals serving the citizens of Putnam County, and whereas qualified practitioners who specialize in the use of medical, radiation, and imaging technology aid in the diagnosis, treatment of disease, share a commitment to bring to the people of this community a safer, more compassionate environment now and in the future. Whereas professionals in the radiologic sciences are dedicated to the highest standard of professionalism, continually maintain those standards through education, lifelong learning, credentialing, and personal commitment. And whereas November 5th through the 11th, 2023, has been designated National Radiologic Technology Week to focus on the safe medical radiation environment provided through the skilled and conscious efforts of radiologic technologists. Now therefore be it proclaimed that we, the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim November 5th through the 11th, 2017, Radioactive Technology Week in Putnam County, and urge all of our citizens to recognize the event and participate in its observance. Done, ordered, and adopted this 24th day of October, 2023. Mr. Chairman, I recommend we adopt this proclamation.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously.
Yes, I did. For a parts store guy, that's pretty hard. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you. So my name is Jana. I'm the Director of Imaging here at Putnam Hospital in Palatka. It's our honor to serve this county, providing high-quality radiologic technology for the citizens of this county. And you said it right, it's very difficult to follow Mr. Martinez's proclamation. However, it's an honor in that he was very supportive of us at Putnam Hospital as well as the imaging department. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jana, would you like to get a picture with the board, Jana? Jana, would you like to come up here?
Come.
I'm going to ask. Okay, our next proclamation is for Veterans Day. Is there anyone that in the audience that came for this proclamation this morning? Okay, Commissioner Wilkinson.
Putnam County Proclamation Number 2023-130, declaring November 11th, 2023 as Veterans Day in Putnam County, Florida. Whereas throughout U.S. history, Americans have kept a special, well-deserved place of honor in their hearts for our nation's veterans. And whereas for more than 70 years we have set aside each November 11th to recognize the men and women who have so valiantly served our country, first known as Armistice Day in 1947 and changed to Veterans Day in 1954. Whereas on this day we pause to remember and pay tribute to those veterans whose courage and sacrifice have secured our freedom. And whereas in Putnam County we have over 10,000 veterans who have answered our country's call to duty, and whereas each Veterans Day our community celebrates and honors our veterans and invites all Americans to display their American flag and honor and pay tribute safely to our Americans who gave of themselves to keep us free. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed through the authority invested in me by the Board of County Commissioners of Putnam County, Florida, I do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2023 as Veterans Day in Putnam County, Florida. Mr. Chair, I recommend we adopt this proclamation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Would all of the veterans in the room please stand? All of the veterans in the room, please stand. Thank you, Commissioner Wilkerson, and thank you for your service to the veterans. We're going to move down to the proclamation on the Marine Corps' 248th birthday. Is there anyone in the audience that came for this proclamation this morning? Okay, Commissioner Adams-Ack.
Yeah, I'm proud to announce this one as I was the Navy. The last year of my Navy career, I actually served with several people in the Marine Corps. It was a great service and great men that I served with in that capacity. Putnam County Proclamation number 2023-129, United States Marine Corps 248th birthday. Whereas the United States Marine Corps will celebrate its 248th birthday on November 10th, 2023. Since its inception on this day in 1775, the Marine Corps has stood as a beacon of honor, courage, and commitment, embodying the finest traditions of our great nation. And whereas the legacy of resilience and sacrifice that has been carried forward by generations of Marines, the ethos of fidelis, or always faithful, has been the steadfast motto guiding these brave men and women in their unwavering dedication to duty and service. From the hallowed grounds of the Battle of Iwo Jima to the deserts of Iraq and the mountains of Afghanistan, Marines have exhibited valor and tenacity in the face of adversity. And whereas, as we reflect on the storied history of the Marine Corps, we pay tribute to all who have donned the uniform, past and present. Their sacrifice and devotion to preserving our freedom are a testament to the highest ideals of duty, honor, and patriotism. We honor their families and loved ones for the sacrifices they have made, for they too are an integral part of the Marine Corps family. And whereas on this Marine Corps' birthday, we express our gratitude for the strength, bravery, and discipline that define the Marine Corps spirit, let us reaffirm our commitment to supporting and standing by our Marines, ensuring they have the resources, respect, and recognition they need and deserve. Now therefore be it proclaimed, Putnam County Board of County Commissioners do hereby recognize and congratulate the United States Marine Corps on the occasion of its 248th birthday on the 10th day of November, and recognize those who are currently serving and have served our nation with honor, courage, and commitment. Done, ordered, and adopted this 24th day of October 2023. Chairman, I so move that we approve this proclamation.
We have a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. I don't know. Thank you for that, Commissioner Adams-Ack. Next, we'll ask Ms. Carone to come forward. She's going to present the Employee of the Month.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Miss Amy Black, our EMS billing supervisor, and she was nominated as Employee of the Month for her diligent work in completing the billing for our EMS. She trains staff, obviously, and works against deadlines and timelines to ensure that our claims are submitted to insurance companies within the appropriate time frame. And through her due diligence, we have reduced the amount of write-offs that we have by at least half. And her efforts contribute to almost $3.5 million in revenue for the county. Wow. For completing the billing. So for September 2023, congratulations, Ms. Black.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, and I promise I'll keep it brief because there's a lot of people here that don't listen to me speak this morning. But Ms. Black, you got to remember, her team of 3 processes over 12,000 EMS runs every year that are audited beyond belief to make sure that they have everything they need to do. And for such a small team, they do a magnificent job. There was at some point she was, in the old software system she had, they were backlogged a long time. I don't know exactly how long it was, a long time. And last time I checked, they were within the current month of making sure, and the quicker you get to the insurance billing, the quicker they pay and the more money they have. So with her due diligence and her and her team, they just do a phenomenal job. I mean, and they work very, very hard for our county. So Ms. Amy, thank you so much for you and all that you and your team do.
I just want to say thank you. It means a lot to be recognized.
Good.
Thank you.
Let's go up and get a picture.
This is your family?
Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Amy.
Next, we'd like Honorable Matt Reynolds to come forward and employ the quarter.
Good morning, Commissioners and staff and the attendants. Hang on just a second. If I could have Mrs. Sherry Jones come up, our Employee of the Quarter. While she's coming up, I just want to give a quick little bit of information about Sherry. She was nominated by her coworkers and some of those that work under her. She's our supervisor in our customer service area, and I just wanted to point out since July 1st how many people they have served. 10,189 people, and of those 10,189, Mrs. Jones has served herself 1,191. So she has done an absolutely fantastic job for the clerk's office and the people of this county. So please join me in thanking Sherry Jones. And also here's a little bit of a token of our appreciation that we give out the Employee of the Quarter. Yeah, we'll get a picture real quick, and then we'll do the next recognition. And next up, I would like to recognize Mrs. Robin McRae for 5 years of service to the clerk's office. Robin, could you please come up? These ladies in customer service work very hard. Looking at the numbers, Mrs. Robin has helped 1,299 people since July 1st. So thank you, Robin, for your service to this county and our office.
Thank you. Whoa.
Good catch.
You want to do it up here, or you go down there?
Stand up.
Y'all gotta give us a memo.
Well, Matt just gave me the memo.
Matt, do you keep score?
Okay, next I'm going to ask J.R. Grimes to, are you going to just do it from your seat,
If that's
JR?
okay with you.
That's fine.
Okay.
If you'll give us your report.
Yes, sir. As many of you are aware, we had a countywide ISO rating that was done in September of 2022. It took us a year to get our result because it took a little extra time because we had never went through just one single grading for the entire county. So as we did that, they had to redo the maps and the different things throughout the entire county because the requirements for the insurance companies now for fire service is so stringent, and no individual one department would ever be able to make it anymore. So that's why we had to kind of encompass it to make it one big county-wide rating. With that, we had several ISO classifications of 10 around the county, which included areas in San Mateo, Johnson, and Francis. With this, we will have a county-wide rating of 5/5X, okay? And the X rating, what that means is we don't have a certified water supply within 1,000 foot of your residence. In the rural world, that is going to be really hard to do. It's a lot easier in the municipalities and the urban areas, but as a countywide, I think we did very well. This is the first time we did it. I can look through there and see some things that we should have got credit for that we didn't. But that just makes it a little easier as we move forward in the future. We were 2 points away from getting a 4, so I'm very confident moving forward that we'll be able to drop that reduction even further. But this will give every resident in Putnam County the ability to purchase fire insurance, which they have not been able to do in certain geographic areas for quite some time. So if anybody has any individual questions, I'll be glad to take them. But I just wanted to just publicly make it that we will now have a countywide ISO rating of a 5.
That's actually wonderful news, JR. I know that if you live in one of the areas where we have a 9 or a 10, it made it very difficult. So that's really great news.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. JR, wonderful news. I hope the people out there really understood what just took place. Your availability to purchase insurance just went up, and your affordability just went up or went down, however you figure that. When East Palatka changed, there was people that saw significant reductions in their insurance premiums. You're going to see that. This is big news, and JR, I'm going to tell you, as a prior insurance agent, I wish this was around back when I was doing insurance, because it would have made my life a lot easier. So I'm going to let the people know that our staff has worked very, very hard. This commission worked hard to make that happen, and that's something to really be proud of in this county for fire protection class 5/5X. I would encourage you to flood your insurance agent with phone calls and see when that rate goes into effect, what's going to happen to your premium. I would encourage you to do that, make that relationship now and get that started. But that is big, big news. And it's not just, it's not just the insurance part. It's also the safety and well-being of our citizens. And that's what we look at. Our first job is public safety as commissioners. And JR, you and your staff, I know how hard it was for y'all to get all the fire departments together and get this done. But big, big step forward for this county. And it's going to pay huge dividends for the public protection of our citizens of Putnam County. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Harvey, I would just like to say that this will not take effect until February of 2024. So if there's anybody don't inundate your insurance companies quite yet, because it does not go into effect until February of 2024.
Okay, thank you, JR, and thank you, Commissioner. It's my understanding when we move to the Planning and Development, Zach, if you want to, you're ready. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to change this up just a little this morning. I understand that there's a wreck out on Highway 100 that's possibly preventing someone from getting here. So I'm going to do the item E and D on the agenda, and then we'll go back to item A after that. So if you would start with item E, Zach, and that would give hopefully everybody the chance to get here that wants to speak today.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Zachary Baker, Planning and Development Services. I do not have a presentation put together for item E, simply because we've already heard item E. And this is just to serve as a reminder that anytime we have a Land Development Code text amendment, or as we'll see in some forthcoming presentations today, a rezone changing more than 10 contiguous acres of property from one zoning district to another, Florida Statute 125.66 (5) B comes into play. That statute says the proposed ordinance is required by state statute to be heard by the Board of County Commissioners twice. One of those hearings is required to be after 5 p.m. on a weekday unless the Board of County Commissioners, by a majority plus one vote, elects to conduct that hearing at another time of day. And then the second BOCC meeting shall be scheduled based off of how that vote goes or doesn't go.
Okay, so this is the one that we've already heard and approved to come forward to public hearing, correct?
That's correct, yes, sir. So we presented this September 26th to the Board of County Commissioners. I had the note and at the beginning of the presentation, but by the time we got through it and had some discussion and questions, kind of out of sight, out of mind. So unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, it was approved, but we still need one more hearing before we can actually approve that.
So we'll approve it today and to move forward and then schedule the next hearing.
No, sir, you can't approve it today. You'd have to just determine when that next hearing will be. There's certain notification requirements, like it has to be heard at least 7 days after the first hearing, but it's got to be noticed 5 days before the second hearing. So typically, the last time that we had to do this, and I'm not trying to sway you guys at any way, but typically what you all have done have just voted to have it at the next BOCC meeting, which I believe would be November 14th, something like that.
Okay, so do we need a motion to hear this at the next meeting? Yes, so the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend this to the next meeting of November 14th at 9 o'clock.
Okay. Is there any second?
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries. Item D, Zach.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, for the record, Zach Baker, Planning and Development Services. This is Land Development Code Text Amendment LDC 23-000002. Again, Florida State Statute 125.66, parenthesis 5, parenthesis B. The proposed ordinance is required by state statute to be heard twice before the Board of County Commissioners. One of those hearings is required to be after 5 p.m. on a weekday, unless the Board of County Commissioners, by a majority plus one vote, elects to conduct that hearing at another time of day. The application is by Jerry McClellan, requesting an amendment to the text of the Land Development Code in two sections. So there's a table in 45-109, and then there's the actual governing code, 45-110. The LDC currently regulates accessory dwelling units and places certain size limitations and number of bedroom limitations on those accessory dwelling units. There's a variety of other regulations, such as minimum lot size. They can't be rented or leased. They can't be sold separate of the property unless an approved lot split occurs, so on and so forth. So we already have this regulation in place. We're simply trying to bump up the allowable size of these structures. To summarize, it would be no smaller than what we're proposing, no smaller than 500 square feet, no larger than 75% of the square footage of the primary residence. In no case will the accessory dwelling unit be able to exceed 2,000 square feet of living space. The accessory dwelling unit would be limited to 2 bedrooms by right, with the possibility of having an additional third bedroom if a special use permit is approved by the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Okay, I have a couple of questions, Zach. First off, this is for an accessory dwelling unit like a mother-in-law suite or something like that, correct?
Yes, sir.
I personally do not believe that a 500 square foot minimum is low enough. I believe 400 square foot would be better, because if you think about it, you could have a 10 by 10 bedroom, a 10 by 10 kitchen, and a 10 by 10 living room and a small bathroom, and be at 400 foot or less, and it would be large enough for a small mother-in-law suite adjacent to the home.
Yes, sir. So this morning, I did pass out some jurisdictional research, and having a minimum is really not the norm for Clay, Alachua, Marion, and St. Johns County, the big four around us. So I don't have any, disagreement with you on that. I think that we could strike the minimum altogether. Florida Building Code is going to establish your minimum required living space anyhow, so when they obtain a permit, that'll be checked through our building department.
Okay, I would be in favor of that. Also, the other question I had is that on the 2,000 square foot of living space maximum that you have in there, my concern is if someone owns a home currently that's 21 or 200 square feet and they own 20, 30 acres of land and they would like to build a larger home for themselves and let their parents or their children or whatever live in the accessory structure, the way that it reads now, does it allow for you to use the new structure as the main structure and the existing structure as the accessory structure?
Yes, sir. So I tracked with you on that question, and I'm going to just answer with an example. So if somebody has currently a 2,000 square foot primary residence on site, it's the single home, and they want to build, let's say, a 5,000 square foot residence, they would have to go through the appropriate channels to obtain either a variance or a special use permit or both for the existing, and then they would do a change of occupancy form when they submit their building permit for the larger structure. So yes, to answer your question shortly, the primary home that's currently there could be redefined as an accessory structure should they want to build a new home.
But in order to do that, then they would have to go to the ZBOA and get a variance?
Under our current regulations, yes, sir, because right now we're limiting them to 1 bedroom and 1,000 square foot. What we're proposing would be 2 bedrooms, 2,000 square foot. So in the case, like you said, 2,100, let's assume it's a 3-bedroom, they would need also a variance and a special use permit.
I guess I'm not communicating well enough with you. I don't have a problem putting it in there that they could do 2,000 foot instead of the 1,000 foot like it is currently. I'm actually for that. The problem that I have is that they can't ask for larger through the ZBOA because we have a maximum of 2,000 square foot in here for no matter what. So if they had a 2,200 square foot home, they couldn't even go to the ZBOA and ask for permission to make the existing home the accessory structure and then build a larger home somewhere else on their property.
So the way that the code, sorry to interrupt, the way the code currently reads, it shall not exceed 1,000 square feet. However, we still encourage folks, if they have to have 1,100 or 1,200 square feet, to go in front of the ZBOA.
I understand that, but I guess, like I've said, I guess I'm communicating well with you. The way this is written, does it say the maximum square footage for the accessory structure cannot exceed 2,000, or that it cannot exceed 2,000 unless it goes to the ZBOA?
We do not have the unless it goes to the ZBOA.
Okay, so it could be bigger, they just have to go to the ZBOA to get it bigger than the 2,000.
Yes, sir, but it's not expressly written in this new proposed code. We can add that before you hear it again at the next hearing.
I think it needs to be added in there because I think that somebody has the right to go before a committee of their peers and ask for whatever they want to do. May not get it, but they should have that right.
Made that note, yes, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Harvey, I think you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Zach, what if you just build a structure larger than the one that's currently there? Would that solve some of the issue there? Say you had a 2,400 square foot home, okay, and now you build a 3,000 square foot home, and then you change residence. Wouldn't that, because I really don't care what's there now. That doesn't bother me. You know, could we do it that way, or is that something that we look at?
So then we would also need to assess whether or not the proposed home and the current home meet that 75% threshold. Unless, of course, we provide a clause that would allow a variance on that 75% requirement as well.
For the existing structure, I get that. I think maybe that's what we ought to look at. That's just my opinion. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Adams, Act.
I agree with just about everything Commissioner Turner said, or Chairman Turner said. I'd actually like to see the do not exceed 2,000 square feet eliminated and just go with the 75%. I don't know if that's possible, because if someone did have a very large McMansion type home, like on the river or something, had 10, 12 acres, and they wanted to build an accessory structure, to put a 2,000 square foot home may look actually odd, depending on what it is. And I think people should have as much flexibility as possible. I like the idea of having it, they can go to the ZBOA added to it as well. But I would like to just leave it at larger than 75% of the square footage of the primary residence, or upon approval of the ZBOA. And I don't see any reason why to have a 2,000 square foot limit or 400 square foot limit, like you said. So I like the idea of striking the smaller than and allowing the Florida statutes to govern that. That's where my thoughts are on it. Thank you.
Yeah, that wouldn't present an issue that I can see, would it, Zach?
Okay, so some of the other, again, jurisdictional research I looked at, there are different allowances based on property size. So for this example, I mean, we could say if it's larger than like 5 acres, then it would just be 75% the primary home. But if it's between 1 and 5 acres, then we could have some other allowances written in. Or do y'all just want to see it done away completely?
I wouldn't like it to be that complex. I'd like it to just be simple, because there's also the permeable structure rules in our land development code already, so that's already kind of governed in our code.
Correct.
So
yeah, we have a 35% impervious surface requirement too.
So I think that
But
meets
it really does, Commissioner, it really does make a difference if you're on 1 acre and have an accessory use of 2,000 feet versus on 5 or more acres.
Right.
Then you're going to have possibly 5,000 square foot of house on a 1 acre property. I don't think that's the intent of what we're trying to do here for an accessory use structure. So I think you're going to have a minimum size if we're going to strike the 2,000 feet and just have it 75%. Because if somebody had a 5,000 square foot house or a 10,000 square foot house, they could basically have a 7,500 square foot accessory use structure and that wouldn't be good if they were only on 1.5 acres, 2 acres. So I think if we're going to strike the 2,000 feet, we're going to absolutely have to have a minimum size for the 75% rule only, like the 5 acres Zach came up with. So, let's see who is next. I think Commissioner Pickens.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Turner. I agree with pretty much everything that's been said on increasing those sizes, but Zach, if I understand, we had talked yesterday about, or maybe it was to Brian, that I really didn't like the 500 square feet moving to that. So if we allow the state building codes to handle that, what would the minimum be?
So I don't have a clear answer for you on that, but Florida Building Code is very strange on how they regulate living space. Basically, to abbreviate it, different living space requirements can constitute other living spaces. So your bedroom could be in the living space, which would be defined as your living room, and they would just kind of stack, if you will. So I don't have a clear answer for what is the minimum building size per the Florida Building Code. Anytime I've asked, I've been given this jargon about building space and air conditioning. There's a lot that goes into it. We just let the building department figure that out.
Okay, but what I don't want is to raise it to the 500, so it would be under 500, so more like 4?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, some other municipalities cite 375 as the minimum, so we know it can go at least down that low.
Okay, well, it sounds like what we're trying to accomplish is not to hinder somebody who wants a larger accessory dwelling, but as being part of the SHIP program of the AHEC committee, I don't want to hinder the lower square footage also, because there's a need for that also.
I believe, Commissioner, this is only for accessory structures that we're talking
Exactly,
about.
right, but there should be a lot of those are hardship cases where they're having to bring in a loved one or somebody that's ill, aging or ill, and they may not need that large of a structure. I just don't want to have to make them go to 500 if we could stay at 4.
I think we talked about striking the minimum size altogether. I think.
Well, that's why I started the conversation of what is the state's minimum requirement, because if it's 600, then we're going backwards here.
If we get rid of that, though, we'll always be all right with the state requirement, even if it changes, because the state changes code all the time.
Then we would have to abide by that anyway.
Right.
Well, one of my concerns is definitely that if it gets to be so ambiguous that we need 2 attorneys and 3 accountants to figure out what sub-minimum size can be, it's probably not what we're wanting to do.
Exactly.
So my proposal would be to just leave it where it is. I haven't heard of a single time so far that the 400 foot has hurt anybody's ability to do what they were trying to do. So I propose that we just leave the 400 foot in there, don't change it, and then as long as it can go to the ZBOA at the 2,000 foot for a bigger one, I don't have a problem with the language in there now, as long as the language that you proposed, as long as they can still go to the ZBOA if they want to do something else, and we're not preventing them from doing that.
Okay, I'm definitely going to ask you all to summarize what you're wanting to see at the end of the presentation.
I thought I just did.
So, well, just all right, so have a clause to exceed 2,000 square feet and have a clause to exceed the 75%.
No, that's not what I said. I said to leave it as stated except for the 400 feet. Move it back to the 400, not the 500. Leave it like it was for the minimum. And then on the maximum, use the language that you plugged in there, which is basically 2,000 max unless they go to the ZBOA and get a special exception.
So do away with the 75% as well?
No.
Okay, leave that. Just have a ZBOA option.
75%.
Okay.
Up to a maximum of 2,000 feet unless they go to the ZBOA.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, does anybody have an issue other with that? Okay, Commissioner Harvey, I think, was first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Zach, on page 309 of our packet, do you have your packet? On item G, 6G, you have the unit shall be no smaller than 4,500 square feet.
No,
We got to clean that up.
That's just the
No,
change.
there's a line under one, and so the first one is a change. For it used to be 4, the 5 is a line underneath it, so that's the new language. So right there, that's where you're talking about.
Yeah, the new language here at
See,
45.
there's a line under the 5.
Okay.
And there's a 4. So the 4 is being changed to the 5, but we just asked him to not change that and leave it at 4.
And are we worried about the 75% anymore at this point? Or are we going to strike that line too? Because my concern is you got a 3,000 square foot home and you're going to build another one, okay? You know, what's the primary residence then? Are we going to make them tear off the carport or tear off the garage? Or you see what I'm saying? We have an existing structure there. And you said we can change residency. So, you know, I worry about us going, hey, you still got a building out there and you can't occupy it because you're building a new one.
I don't think that's what would happen here, Commissioner. I think what it is, you've either got to do the 75% or you've got to have a minimum size. Because if you don't, then somebody could have, like I said a minute ago, you could have a 10,000 square foot house and build up to a 7,500 square foot accessory structure unless you have either a lot size minimum or a maximum. A maximum size within the 2,000 feet. You got to have one or the other, because if you don't, you'll end up with 17,500 square foot on an acre of land somewhere, and I don't think that's the intent.
Okay, Zach, so the question is, I have a home that's 2,000 square feet, and I want to build another home on my property for my kids to take care of me. And we're going to change this from up to 2,000 square feet, right?
Well, it would be the 75% of the
See,
primary
that's what I'm
structure.
saying. So now I'm going to be limited, not to 2,000, I'm going to be limited down to the 1,500.
For the new one, but you could also make the new one, the new structure, larger. You could make it, as long as it's bigger than 75% of what the smaller one is, and if you use the old one for the smaller one, as long as your new one is large enough, the second one is 75%, you just change your accessory structure to the existing home and you build a larger home.
And we're good with that? I am.
Works for me, yeah.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Adams, Act.
I'm the 400 square feet limitation. I have been approached by people on that, and the remedy that they've had is to get the emergency approval for a dwelling if someone was actually disabled or something like that. And that's why I wanted to strike that, because there have been people that have utilized smaller structures than 400 square feet for that exact reason. They have someone that got really sick, a grandparent or something, they just needed somewhere for them to be. This would allow them to build that smaller structure, because some of their situations are temporary, right? So that's why I want to eliminate that bottom number. As long as it's a legally built structure under code, I think we should keep that number off there altogether, because there's people that have an instance of someone, like let's say your grandparent had a stroke or something, and you had a small building, you just needed to build something that's going to end up being temporary shelter, but still has to pass all the safety codes and all that stuff. There are instances, I think, where under 400 is appropriate, and those people in the past have used emergency methodology, which creates a lot of paperwork and a lot of jumping through government hoops to get that approved. I think we would remove that barrier if we get rid of that limit.
I understand your concern with that, I really do, but it's also very difficult for somebody to try to find out what the minimum size is if it's not stated. Our own planning director just stood in front of us here and said he didn't know what the minimum size was, because he's had conflicting definitions of what the minimum size for the building code is. So if we don't put something in there, it's going to make it very difficult. And I know there's minimum sizes, but you'd almost have to have a full presentation by Mr. Watson for him to come in and explain that for an accessory structure, or for a minimum size structure, it's got to have a living room that's so big, and it's got to have a bedroom that's so big, and a bathroom that's so big, and by minimum building code. And so it's almost would have to be a large calculation on what would be there, instead of just that it has to be 400 minimum and meet the building code.
But the professional that they have building it would do that calculation, figure that out when they design it. That's their job.
You mean the contractor?
The contractor, or
No, sir, they wouldn't either.
yeah, the
Architect may,
yeah.
but very seldom do you ever hire an
I mean,
architect
before it
to
ever
build
got
a 400
approved.
square foot house.
Right. I mean, it still would have to go through approval for codes. That's just my take. I'd like to see that removed.
Okay, I guess we're gonna have to take a vote on that, because I can't get a consensus, so I will. Is there anybody in attendance today that would like to speak for or against this particular issue? Miss Ann Wallace, would you please come forward? Good morning. If you would state your name and address for the record, please, and try to hold your comments to 3 minutes.
Hopefully I can do shorter. My name is Ann Wallace, 134 Bowfin Drive, Palatka. I appreciate everything that you guys have brought up. That means I can cut it a little bit shorter. I do have some clarity on the 400 square feet that I'm able to quickly share with you. That comes from Florida Housing. As you know, accessory dwelling units are something that many, many counties throughout the nation are using to up our housing supply. So that's where the 400 comes from. And if you were to do some more research, and I've been a real estate broker for 20 years plus, is that it's based on FHA guidelines, that 400 in Commissioner Turner, Chairman Turner, you very well illustrated that for us. Bedroom 10 by 10, kitchen 10 by 10, living room and the bathroom taking the rest, sorry. So the present guidelines of 400 to 1,000 square feet and the 75% are actually in line with all 5 neighboring counties. We would be the only county going up to 2,000 square feet at the 75%. So I guess I don't really have to discuss a whole lot of things, because I think you guys are discussing it. I just wanted to really provide clarity on the 400 square feet.
Thank you, Ms.
Okay,
Wallace.
thank you.
So I'd like to get, did you have any questions for me?
No, ma'am, I don't think so at this time.
Yeah. So let me just add, in the past 10 years, there's been 5,600 houses right here in Putnam County sold, and the square footage average is 1,600 square feet. So really, the 2,000 square feet is going to benefit people who have extra acreage or larger houses. So I would like to make sure that the 400 square foot is kept there. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Adams, Zach?
If it would help, I think I would be all right with 375 square feet, like one of our neighboring counties. And I think that does your 10 by 10, 10 by 10, 10 by 10 in a decent-sized bathroom.
That's fine with me. I just think we need to have a definitive number in there. 375 is fine with me.
I'm fine with 375.
If I can do this by consent. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this issue? Okay, I think what we'll do, Zach, you paying attention? Okay.
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. I think what
75.
we'll do is we'll leave the language in there for the maximum, and we'll change the other one to 375.
I agree with that.
Does that suits everybody?
Mr. Chairman, with a caveat, if they need more, they can go to the ZBOA for
Correct, but it's
approval.
already in there
Okay.
according to Matt. That's, or excuse me, Zach, it's already been
Okay.
written in there. So that's not stopped.
Good, good.
Okay.
I'm for that
All right, so
waiver.
we'll move it on with just that change to the next meeting, Zach. This
Understood.
one This one here's also got to go to another meeting, correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we move that meeting to November 14th at 9 o'clock.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. Okay, hopefully everybody got here by now that wanted to get here for the first case. That put us off an hour. So hopefully the wreck didn't hold anybody up more than that. So we're going to move into item A on the agenda, the PUD 23-06. Zach?
Chairman. So again, Florida statute, 10 contiguous acres or more, it's going to require 2 hearings by the Board of County Commissioners. This is an application to amend the zoning map from agriculture to PUD. The agent is also Mr. Don Holmes. This property is located at 1800 State Road 100 in Melrose, and the intent is to develop an overnight recreation park with the possibility of up to 115 total sites, comprising RV, glamping, and primitive camping sites. There's a breakdown in the development agreement in your staff report. Property is 20.11 acres. It's in close proximity to the Lake Butler to Palatka multi-use trail system. There's a 1.6 acre natural pond on site. The property is entirely within FEMA Flood Zone X. The ag future land use, which is where this property is located, supports activity and resource-based recreational uses and rural recreational uses, so long as it's no more than 10% within of land area within that distinct ag future land use area. The intention here is to develop a family-friendly facility which embodies the rural and agricultural character of the area, provides recreational improvements, and also provides amenities to the Rails to Trails pathway. If approved, of course, the Development Review Committee will review the proposal to ensure compliance with all applicable design standards stipulated by the Land Development Code, the Comprehensive Plan, and the supporting development agreement governing this property. Here I have a list of proposed uses. It's lengthy. It's not to be interpreted as all of these are going to be on there. She's just trying to give herself some flexibility. Maybe something doesn't work out. She's got another option that she can pursue without having to come back and modify her allowed uses in the development agreement. Here we've got an aerial image of the subject property. Again, this is right on Clay County line. Future land use is ag. There's some commercial further east on 100. Again, zoning's all ag in this area with some commercial too further east on 100. There's no wetlands on this property, and it's within flood zone X. This is the very first preliminary conceptual plan. It's more or less a bubble plan that kind of shows where on the property certain amenities or features may be developed. I believe that the applicant has provided or is proposing a more detailed site plan. I'm not sure if it's at this meeting or not, or if it'll be at the second meeting. Here we can see the evidence that they do have the cross-access easements, 30-foot wide, to access the trail system. So the proposed development is compatible with the goals, objectives, and policies of the agricultural designation and the future land use element of the comp plan. The proposed use conforms to the development requirements of planned unit developments as stipulated by LDC 45-222. Proposed development would provide recreation space in the area of the county which is void of such developments and does not exceed the allowable space for such uses to occupy. And the development is required to be reviewed by the DRC before any development can occur. Therefore, staff is recommending approval to amend the Putnam County zoning map from Ag to PUD as it is consistent with Land Development Code, the comprehensive plan. However, Planning Commission at their September 13th, 2023 public hearing voted to recommend denial of the proposed rezone, a 4-3 vote. And just as a reminder, we can't make a decision today. We'd have to establish a time to make that decision.
Okay, is there any questions to staff at this point?
Do we need to do ex parte?
Yes, we need to do that.
Yes, we're going to ask for ex parte communication. Commissioner Harvey?
I've had many on both sides of the for and against. I've met with the applicant, and I've met with countless people, and also many emails for and against this project. But it won't affect my decision to be made today.
Commissioner Adams, aye.
I have had ex parte communication on both sides of the issue, and it will not affect my vote.
Commissioner Pickens?
I've had ex parte communication of both sides of this issue and spoke with the applicant. And like Commissioner Harvey said, many emails, and it will not affect my decision.
Commissioner Wilkinson?
I have had ex parte communication on both sides as well, plenty of emails, and I also did a site visit. But it will not affect my decision.
And same here. I've had many emails, talked to both sides of the issue and met with the lady, and it will not affect my decision. So is there any other question of staff at this time? If not, we'll ask council to come forward, the applicant's agent. If you'd give us your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Good morning. My name is Don Holmes. I am the agent and attorney for the applicant, which is Forever Rescue LLC. Its principal is Ms. Sheila Ledford. I practice with Holmes and Young at 222 North 3rd Street here in Palatka, Florida. And I'm here to advocate in favor of the passage of this PUD application. The PUD application, as you know, has been identified by number and also by use, so I won't belabor those points. As a matter of fact, although some of you may find it difficult to believe, I'm going to try to be very brief today and limit my conversation to what we consider to be the relevant factors for consideration of a PUD, any PUD, but in particular this PUD. As you've heard, my client desires to establish a RV park with ancillary eco-friendly uses that tie heavily into the trail, the Cross Florida Trail, Rails to Trails that we've been so proud of advocating for. Palatka, of course, is a trail city. She intends to also attempt to establish several ancillary uses that would be consistent with the low-impact facility that she is contemplating and that she plans and that she's done so much research for. As you were advised, this matter was considered by your Planning Commission. It recommended denial. I'm here to tell you that while Planning Commission recommendations are normally persuasive, I would suggest to you in this case that this recommendation is not persuasive. And I would suggest that for two reasons. First of all, there's a majority of one. The decision was made on a majority of one, a 4-3 vote. But more importantly, the basis for the motion to deny was not one that, in my opinion, and of course you'll defer to your legal counsel, can be the legal basis of a Planning Commission decision on a rezoning app. The quote that was made was essentially that the movement, with no prior discussion, the movement by the board for reasoning, the movement simply said that with so many folks there to object to the rezoning application, he felt he needed to move to the County Commission that it deny it. There was then no additional discussion by any commissioner that would have referenced any of the factors in your code which might have been the legitimate basis for denial. And then the vote was 4-3 against, 4-3 in favor of denial. There was no discussion of comprehensive plan. There was no discussion of your code requirements for consideration of a PUD application. There was not even any questioning about the rather extensive staff report, which attempted to address the factors that are important as established by your code. So basically what it was you have a fairly comprehensive, detailed staff report by county staff addressing the factors in your code that are deemed relevant on the one hand, and you have people raising their hands saying they're against on the other, and the decision was made based upon those raising their hands and saying they're against. I would suggest to you that a popular vote of those in attendance, or those who submit emails, or those who submit letters, is not a legitimate basis for making a zoning decision in the state of Florida, but I'll again defer to your council. If it were that simple, you'd save a lot of time in these meetings. You'd simply ask everybody in the audience who's in favor and who's against, take a count, and you're done. But that's not what our law says.
That's right.
So from our perspective, my perspective, I would suggest to you that rather than belaboring the issue in depth, I know you've all read your staff report. I'm going to concentrate on the relevant factors from a legal perspective that I believe should be the basis of a decision on a rezoning matter. And a PUD is a rezoning matter, as you know. And then, because there's been so much misinformation disseminated, the internet's a wonderful thing. There's reality, and then there's internet reality. And in our world, sometimes I'm not sure which is more important. Because, as they say, perception is reality, and once the internet and the Facebook and all the other different venues start chiming in, you lose sight of what the truth really was. So while I'm going to focus briefly on the relevant factors in your code, we do have a couple of people to talk about what my client is really proposing for a use and what its impact will really be. Again, I said I would be brief, and I intend to be. Your code describes the factors that a PUD is to be governed by, or PUD consideration is to be governed by. And basically, again, I won't articulate each factor, but the code states at section 222, I think it's C 1 through 6, and the prefacing line is, the board's decision to adopt the ordinance, and we're talking about a PUD ordinance, must be based on the findings listed below. And it lists 6. They're there. I won't try to go through each one. Your staff, in its report, went through those factors and more, and concluded in its staff recommendation the following. They recommended approval, finding that the use was compatible with existing land uses in the area, consistent with the requirements for PUD zoning, and the requirements for PUD zoning are those 6 that I just referenced, and I confirmed that with Mr. Baker, that statement of his was recognition of the 6 factors that are in the code that you've established as the basis for determining whether a PUD should be approved. Consistent with future land use designation, consistent with other comprehensive plan goals, objectives, and policies. Ladies and gentlemen, it's our position, and I'm happy in rebuttal to address anyone that you wish to be addressed, anyone that's challenged any one of these factors. But for right now, my position would be that, looking at the Planning Commission below, there wasn't a challenge to staff's conclusion as to the factors that your code prescribes for passage of a PUD. It's our position as a matter of following your law, following your code, in taking your staff's interpretation of comprehensive plan and other factors, which included traffic, infrastructure, all those things, and understanding that she would still have to go to a development review committee where many things will be considered in much more detail, such as whether or not improvements to the road are required, accel, decel lanes, whatever, that this PUD at this level should be approved and let this matter go on to RC and then move from there. I'll conclude my portion of the presentation at this point, but I'd like you to hear from Ms. Ledford, if she could come forward now, because I'd like you to hear from the applicant briefly about what in fact it is that she actually intends to do.
Counselor, if it would be possible, as you bring your people that you'd like to speak for it, could ask that they try to hold their comments to 3 minutes. We're going to ask everybody holds their comments to 3 minutes other than the presentation of the council itself.
Yes, sir. We will ask all of our folks.
Do you have any cards on any of these, Ashley?
So you'll just have to pick them, whichever one you want to talk about. It'll show up on the screen here, but it may not show up on this screen here.
All right.
Thank you.
Counselor, did any of your people that you're wanting to speak for turn in a blue card? Okay, well, I'll pull them out as you bring them up, and where they can come up first if you'd like. That'd be fine. Sheila, go ahead.
Thank you, Commission. Thank you, Chair. I appreciate everyone's time this morning. So I did prepare a brief presentation here to go over Bristol Oaks, the nature of Bristol Oaks, and what that will actually in reality be, and what we're proposing. So I'm going to go ahead and cover that quickly. I want to thank Mr. Holmes for taking time to go through his additional detail. So we need to get this into presentation mode. And then, okay, thank you. So as you can see here, Bristol Oaks, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks. Bristol Oaks is actually named after my eldest yellow lab, Bristol, so I have a couple of pictures there for her. It is my DBA of Forever Rescued LLC, and that is a brand that we'll talk about on the next slide here. So as we, oops, go back. So the nature of Bristol Oaks is actually going to be a family-friendly, agricultural-based campground resort. It will have glamping. It will have some primitive camping that will be available. As Mr. Holmes mentioned, it is along rails to trails, so that was a big part of this particular piece of land and the benefit of going with that. We will have activities such as goats and chickens, so families can come and get fresh chickens and cook them at their campsite. We will also have things like puppy yoga. So this is really something that I want to be a very unique experience, different than what exists in a standard RV park and different than what you would see in just a glamping resort. It's kind of like a unique mixture of all of those beautiful things with some agritourism as well available. Celebrate our particular land. I wanted to give some sample structures because I know there's been a lot of conversation about what is this going to look like? What is glamping? Are we going to have tents and or tarps and cardboard boxes? Absolutely not. This is actually going to be a very nice higher end resort. I actually have pictures here from some of the companies that I'm speaking to, as well as some that I've actually seen from the glamping show that I just returned from. So higher end safari tents. We have these structures are absolutely gorgeous, full bathrooms in them, front porches. Now all of these structures will not look exactly like this. We will have some smaller structures as well, but I just wanted to give you a feel for what we're going for. And as we move forward, there's also going to be kid-friendly spaces that are going to be built into this. So you can see, like in this one picture, there's a triple bunk. We've got a little play area with a little cubby hole. So definitely our target market is going to be family-friendly as well as animal-friendly. Domes. This is another one that I'm looking heavily at building out here. You can barely even see it, actually. On the left, there is a mirrored dome. It blends in beautifully with nature and reflects the gorgeous oak canopy that I have there on the property where I intend for these structures to be placed. So, moving forward, here's just some examples of interior spaces within those domes. Again, very nice higher-end structures with great, actually, building code, believe it or not, too, as a dome. And this is where we're going. So I also included a proposed plan here. This is not the final plan. I think that some folks were interested in being able to see some additional details, so I wanted to provide that today. If you look over to the far left here, this is where we're talking about having dog park, a small and large dog park. There'll be a little dog washing station. RVs, right now this is proposed at 46. There's some things I definitely would like to have changed on this, but this is where we're at. There is a 5 to 6,000 square foot camp store, and I'm going to try and limit multiple buildings. So that particular building would include everything from a small laundry facility, bathhouse, as well as storage for golf cart rentals that would be used on the property. And then over, my favorite part of this entire property, for those of you who have seen it, is this far right-hand side where it slopes down to this beautiful pond that has a gorgeous oak canopy, and that is where we intend to put our glamping sites. So I also wanted to talk about the surrounding landowners. I know we've heard a lot in the planning meeting, as well as what we'll hear today. On this particular slide, you can see my property right here. You can see the Snows back here. I don't want to mispronounce Mr. Lazraki, something like that. And then we have a vacant lot over here, as well as two other properties. So really the only ones that truly border are Mr. Snow, because his access road goes right through here, as well as Mr. Miller. And then across the street, we have the Stanleys own this little piece right here, as well as this larger piece right here. The orange is your Clay County, the green is your Putnam County. So as you can see here on these particular pieces and parcels, we have one person who's happy, hence the smiley face, and then we have some other individuals who are not very happy with this. And I also highlighted where their homes are on their particular properties, so you can see exactly what that truly looks like. You want to see? Yeah, absolutely. Here's the rails to trails too. Thank you, Mr. Holmes. So right along here is our rails to trails that comes along the back end of this path, and we have deeded access across Mr. Miller's property right here, directly next to mine. So this is really positive growth for Putnam. I really can't imagine if we don't want this type of growth, what kind of growth we could possibly want, because this is truly utilizing not only our local businesses in this building process. I have chosen all of my subcontractors and plan to choose my final contractor out of the Putnam area, or at least a surrounding area. There is a very low environmental impact. Statistically speaking, we know that campers are environmentally friendly, large and far, especially within the family-oriented thing. And in this day and age, there's nobody that I would like coming out to my property more than families who want to spend time camping with their children versus doing the many other things that are happening out in the world. So it is family-oriented. We are going to be animal-friendly. I mentioned that this is named after my dog. We actually even have a really cool little dog elevator that's been incorporated in because she can barely walk. So we will cater to families traveling with dogs. It is supporting small businesses, and without giving my entire business plan up to you guys today, I will just say that we want to do things like paint with a local artist or do woodworking with a local, or, there's a lot of really cool things that I have in mind that we want to do to support our local small businesses. It does bring tax revenue, and as some of the folks that will speak today that I've spent a tremendous amount of time talking with have told me there's a lot of taxes that come into this with bed taxes, so it's good for our community. It promotes the trail use. As Mr. Holmes mentioned, we are a trail community, and we have put a lot of resources and time into that, and I look forward to really being able to access and show this off in a positive way. And it really, again, the community support that I would like to provide is some of these community give back. So I know we talk about things like live music that has been mentioned, but this is more like a local musician or something, or doing a community give back. I also asked to stream church services. None of that has really been brought up publicly, but I feel like that's important because that's the true nature of what this actual facility is going to be. So with that, is there any questions for me?
I don't think at this time, it doesn't look like. Thank you, Ms. Ledford.
Thank you.
Mr. Holmes, did you have certain people you wanted to ask to come up first?
Yes, sir, if you don't mind, Mr. Keith Valentine.
Did Keith fill out a card? I need to pull it if you did. Okay.
My name is Keith Valentine. My wife's here with me. We are at 165 Willis Road in Hollister. I think that's a Palatka 911 address, and we finally got it straightened out so they could find us at Hollister. Google Maps are showing us now, so hopefully we can get the Hollister name out there, but we are part of Palatka. I'm glad to be here today, share a few things with you. My wife made a point coming out here that, Keith, you need to be for both sides, and I'm welcome for that, because we need to be courteous of our neighbors and our surroundings. So I'm not only for helping with the RV park, even though it would be my competition, but I'm especially thoughtful of the people who are surrounding their place. When we first started ours, of course, I grew up here in Palatka, born and raised, and we're just through the woods about 4 miles from the original ranch that we were all raised on. Commissioner Turner, you remember that. We always got in trouble out there, but we did a lot of things. And I came back to Palatka in 2007 because I wanted this to be my last place. Well, I wanted to bring my landscape business here. So quickly, let me just go through what I want to say. I had to go to a special use permit on my ranch to be able to have, since it's a landscape business, on a ranch piece of property. So we went through that, got the approval for an SUP. So while we were there with the landscape business, we were hunting and fishing and started out Trails End on outdoor activities. And then sitting up in a tree stand one day, I said, you know what? I want to have people come out here and experience this country life for cattle and horses to see what it's like out of the suburbs. So what we did, we went ahead and set up a RV park. And then come to find out, you can't do that. So we had to go through the proper channels, and we went through Tallahassee, through General Counsel, to find out about agritourism. And housing is not part of agritourism because Putnam County Board of County Commissioners didn't know how to handle this. This was back 5 years ago. So they talked with them and decided, no, housing cannot be part of agritourism. So I said, okay, Mr. Scruggs, what are we going to do? Larry says, well, let's have a meeting. So we had our meeting and went through everything. He says, Keith, it sounds great, but you need to change things from PUD. I said, I want a ranch life. I don't want commercial. So they said, well, just go through that. That's the best plan. So we did. Long story short, we did get approval for my SUP earlier than my PUD for my ranch. But the tax department said, well, we're going to have to figure out what to do with that because I didn't want to lose my green belt. So we did keep the green belt. We were able to go on through and have this ranch life still with what's going on. So quickly, let me slip on here. I heard the bell. So they changed it. We met the comprehensive plan of what you decided was the right thing to do. So we did do that. So we went from having families come out. We're able to have our 18-unit RV park, and not only that, we have families coming out as well as workers from coming in on GP shutdown and Seminole shutdown, so it gave people housing in West Putnam, and this new place is in West Putnam. So not only that, what really helped out was the BAS Elite Series tournament. So they came out, we had 15 to 20.
You're about to wrap it up, Keith.
Yes, sir. We had 15 to yeah, my major opposition was my wife, as Don says, but yeah. So we had the Bass Elite Series come out 15 to 20 cameramen and the fishermen, and they came out. So they already called this year, so they'll be coming back, 20 of those in April. The negative part about this, to all of you know, is my taxes went up from $1,800 a year to $25,000 a year. And so that's the negative part about it. But the good and the bad are for both sides. It brings in bed tax for the county. I appreciate you letting me do this, but we will be considerate of both sides, and I'm hoping and praying that y'all will be thoughtful and and keep this to a friendly fight, so to speak, and try to all come out for both sides. Thank you.
When you first applied, you had opposition from neighbors?
Oh, yeah, 22-page PowerPoint presentation.
Against you?
Against me. They did.
At a later day for some modifications, and how many people did you have opposing it?
None. So it was good. We were able to get through with the PUD. It helped out the county. The neighbors seemed to be okay because nobody opposed when I had to go back for another 26 lots, and no negative things happened. So we got that through. So the little girls and coming out, seeing the horses and the cattle, and it's that kind of a life, and they're all playing together. It's the best thing that happened for us, especially in my home county of Putnam County, but we are very considerate of the people in Clay County too.
Thank you, Keith. Craig, could you try to hold it to 3 minutes, please?
Well, it's a little hard, but actually it should not be a problem. Commissioner Turner and commissioners, good morning. Craig McLean, 120 Roberts Lane, Palatka, Florida. Just for the record, I am representing myself today. I did want to take a moment and share, I think many of you all are aware that I have a long experience with developing trails as a professional planner, maintenance, design, those types of things. Want to mention first off the bat that we have noted for years that we have a deficiency in Putnam County for camping along our Putnam County trail system. So with that deficiency, this park will help with that. Second, I have found that the design to be professionally prepared and agree with the staff recommendation. On the last point I'd like to make, if the crime issue comes up, we found over years and years of effort and research that as the trail systems are actually developed and used by the public, that they're self-policing. Crime drops dramatically from the undeveloped standpoint to the open trail. So just wanted to share that last thought with you. If you have any questions, I'll take them. Otherwise, that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
I didn't hear. Oh, it's Kelly. All right. Well,
good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Kelly Redford, 121 Crystal Cove Drive. I'm a local licensed real estate broker here in Putnam County, but most of you know me from Crystal Cove Marina and RV Park. And so through my experience, I just know that people have questions about this new development and what the value of the property will be. So my experience and research, the neighboring properties of this resort of this type do not decrease in value. And so I've done a little research I want to share with you folks. I have researched 3 different RV parks in the area. I just wanted to keep it local because here's what we're talking about, the impact it's going to have on property values in this area. So I took 3 different RV parks, one being the one that I'm involved with at Crystal Cove Marina and RV Park. And so I went back to the property appraiser site because that's what everybody bases property values off of. That's what we all use, realtors in all different aspects and appraisers. So I went back and looked because when I went through the same opposition with Crystal Cove, there was concerns about property value. And I understand I would be the same way. But what has happened and what history tells us here, if you look at the property appraiser site, I'll just use a couple locations, 245 Crystal Cove Drive after the transaction. In 2021, the value on this property was $275,000. This is what the property appraiser says. In 2023, it's valued at $397,000. This property was sold in 2018 at $262,000, and it's sold in 2023 for $430,000. So the property values did not go down. Two other locations in the same subdivision. In 2021, $298,000. In 2023, the value is $430,000. Another one, 232 Crystal Cove Drive, $470,000 in 2021. In 2023, $623,000. And my point being is the values actually went up. They didn't go down. They didn't decrease. Mr. Keith's property out in Hollister, I'm sure that the same opposition was there for the decrease of value in their property. The neighbors was probably concerned with that. If you go back and look, I looked at theirs as well on the property appraiser's card. 2021, $46,000. 2023, $71,000. And there's just numerous ones that's listed here. 141 Willis Road. In 2021, $25,000. In 2023, $51,000. So all these property prices, all these property values have gone up. They haven't gone down. And I'll keep it real short. I also looked in Keystone, went to Bradford County Property Appraiser site and looked at their property appraisal, and it's the same way. 2022, $150,000, or excuse me, in 2006, $62,000, in 2022, $150,000. So I'll leave it at that. The resort proposed by Bristol Oaks is designed for short-term stays and glamping and other family amenities. It would be an asset to our community. I think the property values is actually a good thing for our community and the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Commissioners, for allowing me to speak this morning.
If you'd give us your name and address for the record, please.
Whitney Redford, 604 2nd Avenue, Willaca, Florida. It is truly my blessing to share my relationship with Miss Sheila Ledford. I have assisted Sheila in connecting and guiding her through the process since Bristol Oaks project conception over a year ago. I've never met somebody so focused on pursuing her dream of serving her community and bringing residents and tourists together, establishing an inviting, eco-friendly project that truly highlights our beautiful area. Everything about her project, site selection, came down to the beauty of the property and bringing visitors to get back to nature and enjoy the rails to trails. I want to reiterate her positive, honest character, friendship, and faith that she will bring to our community, plus to the guests she is allowed to serve on her property through this project. Her attention to detail in providing transparency, honesty, and above all, integrity of this project speaks volumes of truly the woman that she portrays in everything that she does. She has gone above and beyond in the beginning stages of this project to not only educate herself, but to be informed in developing a very positive, professional, neighbor-friendly park. A few points I'd like to mention about her. She is a member of the Florida Agritourism, the Visit Florida. She is also a member of the Florida-Alabama RV Campground Owners Association. She's attended and has also a membership to the American Glamping Association and Conference. She's developed relationships not only locally but nationwide to bring her the right guidance in putting this project together to serve her community. Her entire platform for this project is based simply to enhance the beauty of our area and the Rails to Trails. Respectfully, I know we're not voting today, but I ask for your approval of this project. Moving forward, I have no doubt that Bristol Oaks will be an absolute blessing to our community by portraying a professional image, neighbor-friendly, and will be a positive financial impact to our county and surrounding properties. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Rick Paul with the Small Business Development Center, 1100 Reed Street. Good morning, everybody. I've got some very interesting news. Sheila is a client of mine, and most of our clients are all confidential, but with her permission, I'd like to talk about this project. For 10 months, we've been going over this item by item, and you all have seen the Shark Tank. And you know when somebody makes a presentation, the first thing the sharks ask after the presentation, do you know your numbers? Well, I guarantee you Sheila knows all the numbers. She knows why she's picking gravel, what size gravel, where to put it, versus being concrete or being asphalt pavement. Every detail has been gone over. We have spent probably 100 hours on this plan, and it is a fantastic plan. She is the right person at the right time to make this happen. She is motivated to do this in a way that is going to attract a very nice clientele into the county, and I'm going to go ahead and jump into those stats right now. So the source I'm citing now is called Camp Florida. This is out of Tallahassee, Florida. It says the Florida camping, RV park, and RV industry has a $6 billion economic impact for the state of Florida. That's 40,000 jobs created through the RV industry, $2 billion in wages, and $785 million in taxes. That's pretty good numbers, I would think. The typical demographics, they're affluent, average family income of over $70,000 a year, 3 out of 4 are college educated, all age groups, 9 out of 10 are married, and for this group, 39% of them have children, and they love to go camping with them. Another source is Campgrounds of America. We all have heard of that one before. Virtually 1/3 of all leisure traffic or leisure tourism these days is via camping. What's interesting is the demographics here. $100,000 and over represents 54% of the campground traffic. But here's an interesting thing. The next highest demographic that comes in are millennials. And so we know millennials are aged 27 to about 42 at this point in time. They're the ones with the families. 47% of millennials love to camp, and they camp on a regular basis. So you've got a couple of different ways to go out and enjoy your recreation. You can go camping, you can go glamping, and you can go to a hotel and go to a resort. Which one do you think costs the most? Which one do people spend the most money on? It's actually glamping. I hear the buzzer. Instead of hotels and campers, it's $393 per day. Out of that, they spend money on, in the top 5 here, fishing, canoeing, kayaking, hiking, bird watching, and biking. So it seems to be a perfect fit with that. Also, the families that come along with them, they create family shared experiences, over 60% of them. And so camping with children for this one was 57%. So the future of Putnam County, how do you want it to grow? Don't you want families coming here? Don't you want it to be a family place? The millennials are 47% of all the campers. How do you want to grow the county into the future? Don't you want the millennials to move here, raise their families, attend the churches, and so forth? So this is a very family-oriented campground. I'm welcoming the millennials with open hearts, open arms, hoping that they'll move here and participate in Putnam County. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rick.
Good morning, Putnam County Commissioners, and I'm thankful to be here. My name is Randall Gunning, and I own a campground right on the Putnam County, Marion County line, right by the Girl Scout camp up there. It's been a campground since 1940, and one of the things that I think is very important, and I am in favor of this particular project, because the most important thing that people lose track of is what are we doing with our families and the influence that we have with our children, the memories that are created for those things. I think they're very, very valuable. Yes, there's a lot of other upsides to the business community, to the tax base, to all those different types of things. But My campground is all about the memories that we create with our family members and our children, and quite frankly, we don't get enough of that, and there's so much of it lost in today's society. So I'm all for it, and that's all I really have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. My name is Don Miller. I'm at 1774 State Road 100. I am the smiley face on the presentation. I actually sold that property to Sheila, and even before we were under contract, she sat down with me and she told me her vision, and I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. I had other offers, and one fell through that was also wanted to do a glamping, but no one ever presented what she was presenting. And I can tell you I probably have the largest common property line of anybody of that site. So I have no worries about it. I had a point in time where I was going to sell my part of it, but my family, my kids, we went out there for a birthday party for my grandson, and we played wiffle ball. We had a fish fry. We did all that, and I said to myself, I can't sell that property. I think I have the greatest property. If you come out of Putnam Hall going up that hill and you see that thing on the right-hand side, that is the greatest property on 100. And I think what she's doing is only going to enhance that. That is a gorgeous piece of property she has, and what she's going to do is perfect. Low impact. I'm not worried about it. I probably have 2,000 feet of common property line. So I am not worried at all, and I hope that you would vote that same way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me today. My name is Tracy Estelle. I reside at 8795 Hampton Landing Drive East, Jacksonville, Florida, 32256. And I had the ability to meet Sheila through a mutual friend about a year ago. And the first thing that came out of Sheila's mouth was, I need to tell you about the opportunity that I have, that I want to create for friends, for family, for, people who own animals. This is such an awesome place for everybody to gather and, again, make memories. I was totally impressed by what she had to say. She invited me out to the property. I've been there. I've seen it. I've walked the property. And I can tell you this much, is that I am very, very excited because I'm a mother of two. I am married. My children are 4 and 5 years old. I have many friends that are other moms. I participate in moms groups. I'm part of the PTA at my daughter's elementary school, and a lot of us just love to get outside. We're tired of screen time. We're tired of Disney Channel. We just want to get out there and walk the rails to trails. We want to learn about the history and the culture of the actual beautiful environment that is right in our backyard. And in fact, when I was driving here, I saw a sign that said, "Welcome to Putnam County." We are outdoor friendly, and that is what this place, I feel, is all about. And I'd love to bring my children, my family, my friends, their kids out there to experience the outdoors, to see the animals, and to just, feel the experience, and for us to take pictures, make memories. I really feel like that is wholeheartedly what Sheila's intent is. She's a very genuine person. She's very straightforward. She's organized. And every time we've spoken about this, I see the passion in her eyes and in her heart. And I really hope it comes to fruition. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.
In conclusion, to quote what a gentleman said, in this particular case, right place, right project, right time, we'd request your vote for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, is there anybody else that filled out a speaker card that would like to speak in favor of this? Or is everybody else in opposition? Doesn't matter. I was just going to let you come up if you wanted to. Okay, we'll start calling up Miss Sandy Johnson.
Good morning. My name is Sandra Johnson. I live at 144 Haymaker Road, which is almost directly across from the project, and that's Melrose. I think you'll hear a lot more. I was kind of hoping I was later in the program. I think you're going to hear a lot from people about the traffic, about the concerns for safety and, lack of police service in that part of the county, and a lot of valid concerns. I'm sure you will. But my first concern is I am also a landowner right there, and this property, the subject property, is subject to covenants and restrictions. I also own a 20-acre parcel right across the street that is subject to the same covenants and restrictions. And they are very clear, and they are very much enforced. That was an issue that came up in the previous session about were they enforced, were they not enforced. I have copies to provide to you. If you don't have them, I think there's someone else who will provide copies as well. But they are totally enforced. They had a 20-year period, but expired earlier this year. They roll over automatically for another 10 years. So they are enforced, and they exactly address all the things that are being asked to happen on this property. The restrictions say no mobile homes, no trade or business that could be a nuisance to any of the other property owners. It should be liberally construed to effectuate a residential community, because that's what the intent was of this deeded area, unrecorded plat. It's called Lake Forest Plantation, and when my husband and I bought our property there, we were very aware of the deed restrictions, and we were delighted to have them, because we thought between the zoning and the deed restrictions, they provided us a really great level of protection from any intensive use that would change our immediate environment. And that has been the case for 20 years. The other people who are in Lake Forest Plantation have built houses in according with the regulations. We put up only wood fences on 100 because that's part of what's required. It really creates a nice certainty and a nice environment for a residential and agricultural area. And this usage is so out of keeping. I'm not saying it would be a terrible project somewhere else, but it totally doesn't belong in this neighborhood where things have, we're all enjoying our big lots, little lots, residential community. It's totally out of keeping. The applicant either knew or should have known of these deed restrictions, and if she was misled or if they weren't made known to her, then she should take it up with her title company, because they are very much in place, and she should be bound by them, as we all are. So I finally want to say, the reason for changing things significantly would be if the surrounding area is changing. But this area is not changing at all. I think you'll hear from person after person, we love the way it is. We love the quiet. We love everything about it. And
Ms. Johnson, are you about to wrap it up?
I am. I absolutely am. But I don't think the proposal is in any way in keeping with what's there now, and it shouldn't be allowed to be changed based on one person's goals. So thank you.
Thank you. Just to be sure, I don't believe Putnam County has anything to do with enforcing deed restrictions, does it? That's up to a civil matter. Is that not correct?
That's correct. I don't believe any county has the ability to enforce covenants.
That's what I thought. So just to let you know, the county doesn't enforce deed restrictions. That's something that would be done through the civil process. No, ma'am. I just wanted to let you know that Putnam County doesn't enforce deed restrictions, or any other county. Next is Mr. Bart Chutton. I hope I pronounced that right. If you'll give your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. My name is Mark Chatton. My wife, Robin, and I live at 1809 State Road 100, which is directly across the street from the project. We purchased our 12.5-acre piece of property 20 years ago. Our original plan was to build, in 2010, 2 years before my retirement. Our home was completed in 2008, or excuse me, 2006. We just couldn't wait. We both had a long commutes after we did that. One of the big selling points for the property was that the subdivision did have deed restrictions that would preserve the kind of property that we have now. We believe that these deed restrictions are applicable. I won't go into a lot more about it. I will say that I have a bunch more here. I know you've got a lot of time, or you've got a lot of people, which will take a lot of time. Just one quick thing. I just looked up my 2021 value, and it was $300,000. My 2023 is $500,000. So my property has increased that much with absolutely nothing, no improvements to it, other than me cutting the grass in 2 years also. There is no RV park next door now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. George Onan. If you would give us your name and address for the record, please, sir.
George Owen, 1771 State Road 100, Melrose. I'm diagonal from the property. I'm Track C of Lake Forest Plantation. We own 26 acres. Both my wife and I are vets. My background and experience, I have an engineering degree, and I've worked for Johnson & Johnson, the big medical company, for 23 years. I was considered a subject matter expert on business operations and technical project management. I share that as I go through some of the concerns I have. These points are taken from the U.S. Statistics Bureau. Average two-person family in the U.S. uses 3,000 to 6,000 gallons of water per month. The potential 100-some-odd RV units at this 20 acres across the road from us, and let's say for argument's sake, we only use 50 occupancies per day. This rounds to approximately 2 to 3.6 million gallons of water per year. I'm concerned that this amount of water usage of our local fresh water will impact the wells of the local residents. My question would be is, from our perspective, when our wells go dry, if they do, do we sue the county or do we sue the RV park? Similar with the septic, this concentration of waste draining into the sugar sand that we have in this area, how long would it take to pollute the water source of the area? Once again, are we coming after the county or do we go after the owner? At this meeting and the zoning meeting, there's claims from folks that this will be a positive impact to Putnam County. My opinion is far from the truth. Currently, the owner of this property is the sole proprietor of an LLC. And when you go to the website, it gives an impression that it's a nonprofit, but it's not. It's not filed with the federal government as a nonprofit. This LLC purchased this land with a DBA. With my personal experience of working for a large corporation, and my wife and I also ran a small business and a corporation. At that point, I would expect the next move for the owner to register themselves as a nonprofit. At that point, there's no property tax generated. This revenue generated at the campground could be potentially tax-free. So then once again, there's no benefits for Putnam County. And then when you look at the logistics of it, the campers would actually drive to Keystone Heights for their items versus the longer routes to Melrose or Palatka. So I don't really think this is going to be a positive impact from a business money making for the county. Once again, looking at the business model of this, once the property's changed to a PUD and then the owner gives it a try and hypothetically doesn't do well and then sells it to someone else, it's already set up for somebody to come in with an RV park, come in full force. Now we've got the equivalent of what's in Keystone Heights. The attorney stated that the PUD would be compatible with the adjacent lands. Don't see how that is. I'm wrapping up. Part of her business model is to have live music, selling of alcohol. Don't see really how that's compatible with the area. The one owner, don't know his last name, Don, at 1774 adjacent to her, he mentioned about not having any issues with it, but the fact is he doesn't live there. He runs part of it a horse farm, and then also part of it is where he sells used fence there. I personally get phone calls because I've got my no trespassing signs with my phone number on it. The weekends that he sells his fencing, I get phone calls saying, how come your fence isn't open? And I'm like, you've got the wrong guy. Go across the street. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Lori Wiggins.
Lori Wiggins, 122 S Jasmine Avenue. I cannot see this property from my house. My concerns are 100. I leave early in the morning. Sometimes it takes me a while to get out on the road. I turn on the first road to the left to get off 100. There have been many times when I have not been able to get home because of accidents. I've had to park my car on Swan Lake Road and walk through the woods to get home. This is a horrible place. 219 is right down the road. That's another horror story. 26 on 100, that's another horror story. This kind of traffic, campers, a lot of coming and going, is really going to affect how I can get in and out of one road. There are other people that live around me. I worry about fire, rescue. When we call for help, the police department takes a long time to get to us. Those are some real concerns that I have. I am a single mom. I'm not a single mom. I am a single grandma. My grandkids, I babysit them. So this is an area where I will be having lots of children, and it is a beautiful place, and it is wonderful. And having something like this so close to where I come home at the end of the day to recover and prepare for the next day's work. I'm not retired. I can't retire because I can't afford it right now. But this is not what I bought into when I bought my property here. It was a place of rest, a neighborhood where I may not know everybody's name. I know them by their dogs because I'm a dog person too. And I know my neighbors from walking up and down that dirt road. It is a lot of drug traffic. It is a constant problem with people who rent out houses. And when I came to the last meeting, I asked if the owner was going to live on the property, and she is not. She is going to live on the property while it's being built, and then she will be somewhere else. Someone else will be running this. It will not be her. She will hire somebody to do all that. If this was such a wonderful place and a wonderful dream, why isn't she living it? She bought it. She sold the idea. If it doesn't work, this PUD will be front and center, already ready for the next person who wants to do it. And we don't know what we'll be getting. And as someone who lives out in an area like this, it's very difficult, very difficult.
Thank you. Evan Stanley.
Good morning. I'm Evan Stanley. I live in 455 Southeast Lakeview Drive in Keystone Heights. Though I live in Keystone now, I grew up at 1801 State Road 100, directly across the street from this property. My family's been there for 4 generations, since right after the Civil War. And while I currently live in Keystone, it is my desire to move back to the area. And it's something I've been working for quite a while. Growth is happening, and that's not going to change, especially in Florida. We've been leading the nation in people moving to the state. What that does is it makes it harder, more difficult to find rural agricultural life like I grew up with, and like this community that is here is wanting, and as you're hearing. People who live here have done everything they can, not to prevent growth, but to preserve the character of their community as it grows. They decided to live in an area zoned ag, with a future use of ag, and they decided that wasn't enough, and they put deed restrictions on the properties to ensure that it continued to be used in that way. There's nothing else that I know that they could have done to preserve this type of life that we're in. I urge you not to ignore their wishes, not only as they're presented here as more come to speak, but also as they're recorded in the official records. They've listed exactly what they want this property to be used for and have them recorded in Putnam County official records. They trust you to support them and keep the character of their land the same. There's been a lot of talk of community and trying to build up the community. Yeah, now one of the people that came and spoke in favor of this proposal is actually from the community. The one who owns property next door doesn't live there. He sold that property for an RV park, and Zach mentioned at the planning committee that he had already approached them about turning his purchased property into an RV park before this proposal started. So his interest is in the business side of that. It has been mentioned, and I'll mention it again, as a resident of Keystone Heights, all the business, the small business that's been talked about is going to be going to Keystone Heights, not to Putnam County. There's RV repair is going to be in Keystone Heights. Groceries is in Keystone Heights. Car repairs in Keystone Heights. If they want painkillers after a long ride on the rails of trails, they're going to stop at the pharmacies in Keystone Heights. They want to take kids to a park and go out to eat for lunch or dinner, it's going to be in Keystone Heights. Because that's where the rails of trails goes. That's the most route. It's right on the county line there. So Putnam County will not be getting the financial benefit of the small business growth. And as a resident of Keystone Heights, we already have over 700 RV lots in Bradford County, just on the other side of us, and we're good. We don't want any more RV lots. So I would urge the commissioners to listen to the recommendation of your planning commission and to the community that's actually impacted, not just those bordering it, but those who live within the being able to hear it, being able to see the light pollution, and to deal with the traffic and everything else that comes along with that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. David Stanley. You'll have to give it to the clerk.
Okay. Good morning. My name is David Stanley. I'm a resident of Putnam County. Live at 1801 State Road 100, right adjacent to this property. I'm speaking against the approval of the PUD zoning change that is before you. My family has farmed and ranched property adjacent to this proposed PUD for over 100 years. According to the zoning regulations 45-222, this PUD proposal does not fulfill the requirements for this zoning change. According to section A3 of this regulation, it says, quote, the nature of the proposed use at a specific site requires specialized design characteristics to preserve and protect neighborhood character, environmental concerns, and other concerns unique to the immediate area. Close quote. St. Johns River Water Management says that the commercial property with an impermeable surface amounting to 4,000 square feet or more requires some form of stormwater runoff management. The proposal is not specific in the size and method of stormwater retention. In fact, the proposal is very vague in many areas. The proposal lists a caretaker's house, equipment shed, pickleball courts, and of course you saw in the presentation a lot of buildings and a lot of surfaces. So it's easy for it to exceed the 4,000 square foot minimum impermeable surface. It's easy to see how all those buildings would require some form of stormwater mitigation. You have a map in front of you now that shows that this property falls within an aquifer recharge zone. Within this property is a sinkhole. They called it a pond, a natural pond. It is a sinkhole. As you know, sinkholes can be a path of direct access for surface water to flow into the aquifer. Stormwater will naturally gravitate, whether it's from the surface or as it goes through the sand to the hard pan, and it will make its way to the sinkhole. A large number of vehicles that will be on the property, if this PUD zoning passes, will mean oil and other chemicals will be introduced to the aquifer through this sinkhole or simply through into the aquifer recharge area.
This area is also a spring protection area designated by the St. Johns River Water Management District. And I know of springs that flow into Edeni Creek that are not far from this, from this property. The owner has requested a waiver for a lift station and sewage treatment facility and requests a septic system be installed instead. Like stormwater runoff, the result of such a large septic system would likely be that nitrates, potassiums, and other chemicals would easily reach the aquifer in this aquifer recharge zone. 70 or more RV sites and several glamping cabins would require a very large septic system to deal with the wastewater. This is effectively more than 70 two-bedroom apartments. The volume of wastewater should not be left to a septic system in an aquifer recharge position. Section B22 indicates, quote, design of the development should avoid undue noise, odor, traffic, or other nuisances, and nuisances are dangerous to abutting property. The dangers of the water wells being used by the neighbors' properties from chemicals and wastewater is not trivial, and it is real. The Planning Commission has voted to reject this PUD.
Mr. Stanley, are you about to wrap it up?
Last sentence. The Planning Commission has voted to reject the PUD rezoning proposal, and I strongly urge you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next is Susan Stanley. Mrs. Stanley, I've been requested to take a 5-minute recess. Would you come back after that, please, ma'am? We're going to recess for 5 minutes. Moving again? Yes, and before you get started, Ms. Stanley, we're going to take a break here for lunch at 12:30. So anybody that's here that wants to talk about the next zoning case, which is the East Palaca thing, the East Palaca RV or trailer thing at what is it, West or East River Road and Putnam County Boulevard, we will not hear it until after lunch. So y'all do not have to sit here and wait, and you can leave until 1 o'clock. And then I promise you, if we finish this case before that time, I will not hear that case until 1 o'clock, where you don't have to sit here for the next hour and a half. Hopefully that's fair enough. Well, I didn't know the number, what the time would be. I'm certain. Sorry, Miss Stanley. Sorry, we'll get to you in just a second. Okay,
Ashley, let me verify that.
Okay, I guess I need to be a little clearer. Item C is also going to be after lunch because it's after item B. So after item B, and item C will be heard after 1 o'clock. Okay. I just didn't want everybody to have to sit here for the next hour and a half knowing that it wasn't going to happen before then. Okay. And we're going to get started again. Sorry, Miss Stanley, if you would go ahead.
I wanted to make sure, I don't know where we are, but on the map I gave you, I circled our little piece of properties that we're talking about is a very small part of agricultural zoning left there at that end of the county. My name is Susan Stanley, and I live at 1801 State Road 100, directly across the highway from the property. My husband and I have lived here for 42 years. We both grew up within a half mile of here. We drive to Keystone Heights in Clay County to work and do business there, and as we come home from Keystone, it's pretty much rural residential all the way until you get to the Putnam County line. And suddenly the parcels of land, the definite change in character is right there at the county line. Character of the land, lifestyle of the residents, the parcels of land open up. The neighbors are fewer and far between, less traffic, more quiet. The stated goal of the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan 2035 is, quote, to maintain and manage the county's natural resources and quality of life by establishing a pattern of development that is harmonious with the county's natural environment and supports the rural and agrarian nature of the county while providing a desired lifestyle for county residents. We enjoy the rural agrarian lifestyle that we were raised in. We chose to stay and raise our family here, and we're not the only ones. Over the years, the area has been developed into Forest Hills, which is in Putnam and Clay counties, and the land next to and across the highway from us was divided into 10 to 26 acre lots. These developments do maintain the rural and agrarian nature of the county. People moved here to get away from developments, close neighbors, noise, traffic, crime, pollution. Some just wanted to enjoy having space, nature, peace, and quiet. Others wanted to farm and or raise animals, continuing or learning the agrarian lifestyle. According to the Putnam County Municode, rezoning to a PUD must be compatible with, quote, existing and planned uses of properties surrounding the PUD. We and our neighbors are in agreement that the RV park is not compatible with the overall character of the existing and future development of the area or our desired lifestyle. Ms. Ledford's plan for the property is not to come live here for the agrarian lifestyle, but to develop it into an agritourism business.
Her plan will bring at a minimum up to a couple hundred people at any one time to live on the property. In addition, she plans on a venue for hosting weddings, retreats, organized events, live music, food trucks, beer, and alcohol sales, which could bring in hundreds more. The PUD therefore doesn't meet two more of the standards of the MUNA code in our opinion. One, the density and/or intensity, including type and size of structures, shall be considered to address compatibility. And two, the design of the development to avoid undue noise, odor, traffic, and other nuisances and dangers to abutting property owners. With the possibility of hundreds of cars that would come for these events, we don't see anything detailed in our plan to address the traffic and parking, which is another standard mentioned in the MUNA code that must be met. Our children and grandchildren will be inheriting this family farm, and the character of our neighborhood, the value of our property, the lifestyle we desire will definitely change with the development of an RV park next door. We ask you to vote no to this proposed rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. George Loznica. I probably butchered your name, but if you'd give it for your name and address for the record, Lisa.
Good morning, County Commissioners. My name is George Loznica, and our address is 8447 State Road 100. However, my home and property is located in Clay County, 30 feet north of Miss Ledford's property and the Putnam County line, which is actually going to put this PUD basically in my front yard. So I have basically three concerns that I'd like to speak with briefly this morning. Number one is incompatibility. The PUD will be incompatible with its proposed uses versus the existing uses. Okay, there are deed restrictions on all of our properties, which is why most of us bought land here to start with. To live in an area which is relatively safe, with room for our children and grandchildren to play and ride their horses and ATVs. With the exception of my home, our land is still very natural. We see deer and turkeys all the time in our front yard. I'm a conservationist, and I see state protected species such as the gopher tortoise and fox squirrels across all of our properties. They travel all over. And we also have the federally protected sandhill crane, which is often seen on the PUD site. The PUD means more loss of habitat for these already threatened animals. The deed restrictions are in place to keep our neighborhood rural, and we want to keep it that way. Clay County land use is designating our land as rural agricultural, and if I understand it correctly, the Putnam County Code encourages intergovernmental coordination and consideration of uses in adjoining counties, which would be Clay County. Okay, Ms. Ledford knew that her property was zoned rural residential when she bought it, and she should have known about the deed restrictions. And all of this has made this PUD incompatible with this area. The second thing I want to talk about is intensity. The PUD will bring a huge intensity in noise, people, traffic, and lighting. The increased intensity of 115 campsites with an average of 2 persons per site would be 230 people, and a possibility of 115 vehicles plus travel trailers on a 20-acre lot. And this is at a minimum. To say that this is going to be low impact is insane to me. When you put hundreds of people, hundreds of vehicles on a 20-acre parcel, that's like sardines, okay? This is just insane to me. Also, they have requested food trucks, concessions, a meeting facility, and the sale of alcohol. Okay, all this is going to raise the intensity of this property to an extreme level. And again, this PUD is incompatible with the existing uses. Number 3, I'd like to mention real quick, there's really no benefit to the county, okay, or the surrounding area. This is not an industrial or manufacturing facility with high-paying jobs, but rather a few low-paying jobs, such as a caretaker and a groundskeeper. We're not going to be bringing a bunch of jobs in here. It is highly doubtful that campers will travel 20 miles back to Putnam County and Palatka to spend their money for groceries and fuel and restaurants when they can drive 5 miles down the road to Keystone Heights. So the money's not going to be coming to Palatka, it's going to be going to Clay County. So with all this taken into consideration, I feel at the end of the day, the PUD is just going to be a nuisance to our area. We've really got a tight-knit community there. and it's just going to disrupt the rural lifestyle that we live, and we ask that y'all vote against it. Thank you so much for your.
Thank you, sir. Natalie Dean. If you would state your name for the record, please, ma'am.
My name is Natalie Dean, and for the record, I live at 8081 County Line Road in Clay County, which is 300 feet from where this the road comes out on State Road 100, about 300 feet from where this RV park being proposed. Excuse me. That is also Tract 11 in Lake Forest Plantation, and my property is about 1,500 feet from hers. A couple of things I wanted to touch on. No one here that gave testimony in favor of this RV park live near it, anywhere around it. They talk about their community. This has nothing to do with their community. 99% of Putnam County doesn't even know this property exists. So, not until she decided to put something there. Also, a couple of the other people have already discussed some of the things that I wanted to discuss, but I did run through them anyway, and I'll try to make it really quick. But good morning, and thank you, by the way, for me being here, and I do appreciate everyone's undivided attention at this meeting. We did not have that at the last meeting. Anyway, so one of the things I wanted to touch on was the PUD, the Planned Unit Development, and I know that a lot of people have had contention with that, and too, because I know what a PUD is. I've looked it up in many places. A PUD is a zoning that people get that you can makes it a lot easier, so you don't have to come in and you don't have to zone residential, you don't have to zone commercial. You just get a Planned Unit Development and you just put it all in there. And right now, she says she wants an RV park to go in there. And what if down the road she decides, oh, this is not working out for me, and she decides to sell? And just like the other people have said, and there's no holds barred. Once you dedicate that a PUD, it's a PUD. The next person can come in and put a housing development on it.
No, ma'am, that's not accurate. It would have to stay with the PUD.
Yeah, Planned Unit Development.
It would have to be as presented unless they redid the PUD.
Well, a Planned Unit Development, and most everything that I've looked up, and the only thing that's more vague about it is Putnam County's description of a Planned Unit Development. But a Planned Unit Development is basically a place of residences, condos, townhouses. You have shopping. Everything that's available in a community, like a town or something, you can put into a PUD. And that's what my issue is right now the community is, as we say, pristine, but it won't be, I'm afraid, it won't be if someone else or even she comes in with her RV. But my time is up, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. Matthew Snow.
So my name is Matthew Snow. I live at 8449 State Road 100. I'm right behind the property. We share 1,700 feet of fence line. I am in Clay County, and I have strong opposition to it. I have a lot of pages in that packet. I'm going to go try through this really quickly. Under section 45-222A, number 3, you state that the nature of the proposed use as a specific site requires specialized design characteristics to preserve and protect neighborhood character. None of this fits the neighborhood character. Like we've stated, we all have multiple acres, single-family homes. That's what we bought. That's what we want to keep it like. Under section 45-222A, numbers 1 and 2, the density or intensity character type of development proposed in the plan is consistent with the comprehensive plan. This property in Putnam and even in Clay's future land map use is zoned agricultural, not PUD. For number 2, the land use proposed within a PUD are compatible with the terrain and the existing planned uses of property surrounding the PUD. Existing and surrounding properties are not compatible with this PUD. All the surrounding land is single-family homes. This would bring undue noise in the form of people, trucks, generators, dogs barking, and live music. This would bring undue odor in the forms of a septic, trash, exhaust, generator, smoke. This would bring undue traffic with the fact that it would be a business on an already dangerous 60-mile-per-hour highway. In the last 3 years, with papers in there have been death and 22 crashes within 2 miles in each direction of this property. RVs and multiple cars pulling in and out of on this curve in one direction and a hill in another direction is a recipe for disaster. I called FDOT and they said with the pre-application they don't think a turn lane is needed. I asked if they were told that it has live music in the store. They told me they were not told that information. On number 4, near the end of the number 4, it says encourages compatible and cooperative relationships between adjoining lands. As you can see from all the people here that have adjoining lands, we are not in favor of this. Under the future land use document on page 19, number 4, land adjacent to county boundaries. At the bottom it says none of these land use conflict with the emerging land use patterns of Putnam and are in fact a continuation of the same patterns found in other counties. And like we said, Clay County and Putnam in this area are both zoned agriculture. As to the rails and trails, she does have access to it. It is a 5 to 6 foot hill to get access to this property with a approximate incline of 45 to 65 degrees. That is steep. That is hard to have people go up and down the hill, especially with bicycles. And as you can see in the paperwork, I put the crime data for Putnam and Clay. It's not a majestic place. There's a lot of crime on that trail. Putnam already has 17 RV parks, 2 more being built for a total of 1,055 spots. As you can see from the map, most of them deal with water, something people have to do. There's nothing for people to do. Finally, we'll go through this real quick. I asked Zachary how much it cost per night. He said she was looking at the $300 per night range, which is a lot of money. As you can see from there, Key West is less than that. I find that hard to believe that Melrose is nicer than Key West. In the zoning meeting, she stated that the ages were 10 and above. I have an 8-year-old and as of today, a 5-year-old. That means it would be in my front yard and my kids would not be allowed to go there. I find that hard to believe. I ask that you take the emails of people into consideration for who couldn't be here. 9 o'clock on a Tuesday is difficult for a lot of people. And for the next meeting, I ask that you make it 5:05. And if you could somehow let the Clay residents know about the meeting, because we are still not getting any information about these meetings. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Snow. Next is Brittany Snow.
Hello, my name is Brittany Snow. I am at 8449 State Road 100. We are Clay County, however, we have a Melrose address, so we are a part of the Melrose community. We share the 1700 fence line directly behind this proposal. I want to speak on the Putnam County, Florida Code of Ordinance, Section 45-222B22. The design of the development to avoid undue noise, odor, traffic, and other nuisances and dangers to abutting property owners. We are those abutting property owners. Undue noise. If noise ordinance in Putnam County is 11 p.m., what are the noise ordinances going to be for the events and the live music as proposed in the PUD? What is the plan for the undue noise on nearby residents as well as the livestock on abutting properties? Not to mention the adverse effects of undue noise on livestock, disrupting sleep patterns of both the residents and the livestock. Animals are sensitive creatures, and constant noise disturbances can lead to heightened stress levels, affecting their growth, reproduction, and overall well-being. A fence or a wall will not contain undue noise. If the proposal also wants to have livestock, how are you going to have live music, like concerts, when you have also livestock that are going to be directly affected? So what is the plan for undue noise on these abutting properties? Odor. What is the waste management comprehensive plan? Are you going to stop? How are you going to stop not only odor, but noxious gases from not only 7 RVs, but also all the 70 vehicles that are going to also come with those RVs. Not to mention all the daily visitors and the event visitors that are going to come to this park every single day. There is no comprehensible plan as of this moment on the PUD for event parking and daily visitor parking on this 20-acre lot. The noxious gases and odors emanating from waste in these vehicles, if not managed meticulously, could contaminate the air, making it unbearable for both animals and farmers alike. And again, a fence or a wall will not contain undue odor or noxious gases. So then, what's the plan for undue odor for abutting properties? Other nuisances and dangers. With the influx of this many visitors in one location within 0 feet of local residents, what is the plan for privacy and safety for pre-existing property owners? What's the plan for fencing? Trespassing of both animals and people are a danger to abutting properties. Trespassing has already occurred multiple times by the owner with an existing fence. So how are we going to stop other people and animals from trespassing with the current fencing? Designed for short-term stays. So what about the possibility of squatters? Squatters are not only a threat to surrounding residents, but also the visitors in the RV park. Law enforcement can't remove a squatter immediately. This is a process you have to go through. So that is not only a threat to abutting property owners, but also the RV visitors. What about the question of possible sex offenders or child predators? How are you going to vet overnight campers? What's the plan for this? Are you going to, or have you thought of hiring more law enforcement to deal with these issues? Keystone RV Park has Bradford County patrol their RV park 3 out of 5 nights a week, as well as a night guard to prevent dangers to the abutting property owners. But in fact, that RV park does not have abutting property owners because it is in a heavy commercial zoned area. This PUD is in a very agricultural zone, which goes with the section 45222 B3, the residential density. As you saw on the map, there's only 3 commercial buildings in the area. One of them is the Howling Wolf, which is already operating. The other 2 are online businesses running the homes. Everything else is agricultural. Everything else is rural. And so that is why we are fighting this in opposition, not just the RV park, but the rezoning of this PUD for anything that I know has to follow the PUD, but again, for all of these concerns that we have today. I just want to thank you for your time, and I just hope that you take in consideration not just the effects that's going to have on the abutting property owners, but also the community as a whole, because this will also affect Clay County because it's closer in Clay County than it is in Palatka. So thank you.
Thank you. Brian B. Stanley.
Brian Stanley, 130 South Jasmine Avenue, Melrose, Florida. I live about a half a mile from this proposed project. I have lived there all of my life. I live actually in a home that was built by my grandfather over 110 years ago in basically a century-old farm. My concerns that I want to speak to specifically to you today are regarding the water. No one has to tell you that there's a concern about fresh water in the aquifer in Florida, and especially in North Florida. As you can see from the document that I handed you, that is the Black Creek Water Pipeline Project that is coming 18 miles from Clay County into the Keystone Heights area to recharge the aquifer in this area. You previously were handed a map of aquifer recharge that is basically from your own Putnam County information. You'll note that this proposed RV project is right in the heart of that recharge area. The map you have is only of Putnam County. The recharge area extends farther into Clay County. We're in the heart of the aquifer recharge area for North Florida, for the aquifer for this area. This is a recharge area that now we're going to put a number of campers on, up to maybe 70, which again has been stated as like 2-bedroom homes, where they're going to be using water out of the aquifer. We already have a challenge supplying enough water for us in this area already. You have St. Johns River Water Management right here in your backyard. You know what they deal with on a day-to-day basis for clean water for us to use and to drink. I just have a very big concern about this concentration of 2-bedroom apartments in a very small 20-acre area. I'd like to also talk about the water discharge that we've heard some comments on previous. This is actually a standard Florida sink that we're all talking about here. This pond is in the bottom of a sink. I've been here all my life. I'm 69 years old. I was born and raised within a half a mile of this property. That's a Florida sink. That depth of that water in that pond is basically at the level of most water wells, groundwater wells in the surrounding area. This is nothing more than a funnel that is going to take waste from this RV park and this resort area and funnel it right into the aquifer. If you've been to the site, you've seen the property, you can certainly understand and attest to the fact this is just a funnel going dead into the aquifer. So two things that are very, very big and important for me: stormwater runoff, retention, wastewater, all how that's going to affect clean water and the aquifer in our area. Having lived here all my life, I'm not opposed to development, but is this the right spot for the development? It's already been discussed that in your comprehensive land use plan, basically this is an area that is mostly agricultural and residential. And we would love to keep that in that way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next is Michelle Rubin.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Michelle Rubin. I live on County Line Road in Melrose. I am a 5-minute walk down the trail from this property. On the petitioner's cute little map with happy faces and, well, one happy face and all the sad faces, my house was on there. There was no sad face over it. The one happy face happens to be the one person who she paid a bunch of money to for the property. But, sorry, the point I wanted to get at was I am down the trail from the property. It's right there. We already have a lack of emergency services in the area. The one time I've had to call for police, it took them 45 minutes to come out there. They had to come from Putnam County because Melrose was busy with another call. How are they going to address emergency services? How are they addressing, I mean, the traffic? Everybody's brought up the traffic, so I don't want to go back into that, but the emergency services is a big one. All the people for the property are right. It is a beautiful property. That walk down the trails is gorgeous. If you avoid the sand plant, it's gorgeous. But you can't just park 70 RVs and pop up some domes on a property. You've got to level the land. You've got to make it stable for RVs to park there. You've got to make it stable for fifth wheels. You've got to have access roads leveled through for the vehicles. You've got to put down pipes. You need water, sewage, septic. It's not going to be a beautiful land anymore once they do that. All that construction is going to affect everybody around it. It's going to displace the animals that are already there. You already cannot drive down that 1 mile stretch of 100 without seeing deer, mostly deer, and other smaller animals hit by cars on the side of the road. We're already displacing them enough just with our homes. But if we're going to bring in people that are just passers through to the area, they come in, they come out, it's going to displace them even further, especially with the, I mean, they said music, but music when? What are the guidelines on that? I don't know. I know that I can hear the howling wolf 4 nights out of the week until 2 a.m. and nobody stops that music from going. Are we going to stop a bunch of campers who are paying $300 a night when they want to play music too? Anyways, sorry. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next would be Teresa T. Meyer. Even a blind hog.
My name is Teresa T. Meyer. I live at 6374 County Road 214 in Keystone Heights. I actually am in the unincorporated area of Lake Geneva. I live down 214 on Lake Geneva. I'm not far from where this resort is, but my biggest concern is the traffic. We have The worst intersection, well, there's two worst intersections, 100 and 26. You can be on 26 trying to get on 100 and sit there 15 to 20 minutes sometimes now because of the increased traffic. Mostly, in my opinion, from the RV parks that are in Bradford County, which the one is like right around 400 sites, and a new one that they're adding is about 900 more sites. The intersection at County Road 219 and State Road 100 is another terrible place for accidents. I have a very good friend who was mutilated basically by a lady pulling out of 219 onto 100, and she about killed the man. If he hadn't had his big truck, she probably would have. She did die. I live on 214, which is another intersection. It's by the Gizmo. For people who have been in this area for a long time, the Gizmo has been there for years. It's, of course, now a Circle K. But within 5 miles of my house, there is $5 general stores or Family Dollars. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 gas stations which have convenience stores. There's not a stoplight at the only intersection of those three I've mentioned. There's a blinking light on 26 and 100, but still there's many accidents there, as the other man attested, and I'm sure your sheriff would attest to. And turning lanes. Is there going to be a turning lane for this RV park? I heard that the highway said no, they didn't need to have a turning lane. That's a 60-mile-an-hour zone through there. Between where you turn off onto 226 from 100, it's still 60 miles an hour there. It's 60 miles an hour through all that stretch, clear into when you get into you're not quite into the town of Keystone Heights. You just past 214 North, and there's another gas station there. So my concern is the traffic. I have a 2-year-old grandson who can't cross the street with anybody because we're afraid, because the traffic is so bad. Speeders, 60 miles an hour doesn't mean that's what I'm going. I'm going, but doesn't mean that's what everybody's going, because I'm frequently passed coming to Palatka. I worked in Putnam County Schools for over 20 years as a physical therapist, so I'm well aware of how things have grown in this county and Clay County and Bradford County, for that matter. But I do implore all of you to consider the traffic and consider our Lake Geneva is so low because of the water aquifer and being so low. So I just urge you to vote no on this. I don't know if Ms. Sheila is still here. Oh, thank you for being here. And I just wanted her to also realize, I don't know if she's familiar with the traffic in our area, but sometimes now to get on, if you're going through Keystone Heights, times 2 to 4 times you have to wait for the light to cycle because the traffic is so heavy now. And so I just want you all to consider that while you're considering this motion. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Go Gators. The last card I have is Clay Marty. It's not very plain on the card, so. Okay. If you would give us your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Clay Martin. There is an N there on the end, just very faint. And I am with the firm of Folds Walker in Gainesville, and I have the apparently the inopportune chance to be between you and lunch. So I'm going to try to keep this short, and we can all get to the lunch table. I represent George and Stephanie Lesnicka, and you heard from Mr. Lesnicka a minute ago, and also Marcus and Robin Chatton. You heard from Mr. Chatton very early in the process. Just as an added, it's very interesting to be on this side of the dais. Our firm represents 8 municipalities in North Florida, so I'm accustomed to being on that side, so it's kind of a role reversal for me to be on this side of it. A lot of the things I wanted to talk about have been touched on, so I'm going to gloss over some things and then get a couple of things that have not been touched on. There's been several references to Section 222 of your code, which requires you to make certain findings in your decisions today. You've heard the testimony. Much of the testimony you heard spoke to several of those items. The first is that the PUD was incompatible with the existing uses. The second was that the parcel that is proposed for the PUD is too small and ill-suited for what is proposed for it. That it's a more intensive use relative to the surrounding uses on surrounding properties, and there's been several comments about no real appreciable economic benefit to this community or this county relative to what would be recognized by Clay County because of the greater proximity of Keystone Heights to the proposed development. Look at incompatibility first. The current uses are rural residential with sparse densities on lots of roughly 10 to 15 acres. These lots are generally vacant or have dwellings with limited ancillary support structures like barns and sheds. And then there's been this comment on deed restrictions. And I know early on the chairman inquired of the county attorney as to whether the county commission ought to be in the business of enforcing deed restrictions, and we'd agree with you, you're not. That certainly is not your role. That doesn't mean they don't have relevance and meaning to you as a reference as you're sitting and making your decisions today, because unlike an area that does not have deed restrictions, this one does. And so you've got written on a piece of paper the expectations of what this area would look like as it was being developed over the period of time after those restrictions were put in place. And it was the expectation during that time that it would be a rural residential neighborhood with limited to no commercial activity at all. And those deed restrictions still remain in effect and still encumber the subject property. Mr. Chairman, since I'm speaking on behalf of a couple of folks, ask for leeway for a little bit of extra time.
I'll give you some leeway because you are speaking in opposition for multiple folks. Please don't test me on it.
I will not test you, so thank you. We've talked about that. We've talked about the intensity. You're talking about 150 camping units on that 115 camping units on that property. 25 of them were designated as possible mobile homes or park model homes. It's starting, when you start getting to that number, it starts to look like a mobile home community, which again does not fit with the area. There's been references to noise and nuisances. The last thing I wanted to touch on is a technical matter that pertains to the deed restrictions and one more particular use as they relate to a PUD. Your code defines a PUD, or as part of the definition of a PUD, references unified control. That term of art is one that is uniquely used only with reference to a PUD in your code. It's referenced in the definition for a PUD that the land be under unified control, and then later on there's a whole section of the PUD ordinance that talks about that and addresses how the commission ought to approach that. If there is doubt, then there's a mechanism for your county administrator to request opinions from your county attorney. But the purpose in the unified control provision is so the development may be lawfully completed according to the plan sought to be approved. PUDs are very unique because not only are you approving the rezoning, you're approving the initial development plan for the property at the same time and initiating the development shortly thereafter. So you want to make sure the person who is seeking the approval can do what they say they're going to do. The very nature of a set of deed restrictions is that they shift control over the property to other people. It's something and a dynamic that's been recognized by the Supreme Court of Florida in a couple of cases. That's the very essence of a deed restriction, is you're relinquishing or giving control up. And we would submit that in this case, even though we're not asking you to enforce the restrictions per se and tell them what they can and cannot do with the property based on those descriptions or those restrictions, that they do play a role in making sure that there is unified control of the property so that she can do what she's obligated to do under the agreement that you make with her as a result of the ordinance that's before the board. And so in that regard, we would ask you to at least take a look and dig below the surface and make sure that that is the case. That would conclude my remarks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
And I guess one technical question, is all documents submitted, are they automatically entered into the record for evidence? Or
That's
is that
correct.
something that, okay, all right, thank you.
I have another card, Thomas Underwood. Mr. Underwood, if you would give us your name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name's Tommy Underwood. I live at 860 315 North with his, the area code is 32666. Now I have got these maps, a Putnam County map and also a Clay County map in the general area. And when I read this report, it said that it was mainly agriculture. Well, as you can see from the maps there, these are older maps. These are just some of the best I could find. You can see the area is really covered with residential. Any lake you see there has residential around it. So this is very important. This lake that she calls on this property, let me explain my qualifications first. I was a scuba diver, I was open water cave diving and all other general. I have dove, if you look on the Clay County map, Lake Geneva has three, we call them chimneys. They're 60 foot deep. They're a recharged area for our aquifer. This lake that's on this property is I feel like a recharge area, a chimney. Most of the chimneys are 60 foot deep. I've dove many of them. In 75, the sheriff of Putnam County knew I was a scuba diver, and I used to recover bodies for him. And one of the chimneys was called the Eagle's Nest on Highway 20. And this one right here is like a bowl. It goes down about 20 feet or so of sand before you get to the water. And then you go another 60 feet to the bottom of it. All the bottoms that I have found in these chimneys were lime rock, which is very porous, and they take the water. The Eagle's Nest, you went down about 30 feet, and it was 60 feet to the bottom, and there was a 40 pickup truck in there, and there were several motorcycles where people had thrown them away. But I believe, if you think about it, you're putting 115 sites on a small area, and they have all the sites are around the pond or lake, whatever you want to call it. And I feel like it's going to be detrimental for Putnam Hall and section south and to the west of the pollution. If they have to put one septic tank per site, you can see what problems we're going to have here. And I think for the health and the welfare of West Putnam County, we need to really consider that. And also...
You about to wrap it up, Mr.
Yes,
Underwood? Yes,
one moment, please. The gravel roads that she is requesting, the oil, the grease, the stuff dropped off of these RVs is going to be tremendous. And that is also going to migrate over to the lake and be in our water system. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else today that would like to speak for or against this? Mr. Holmes, you said you wanted rebuttal?
Do we have
think that's pushing it. I think that Mr. Holmes needs to do rebuttal as his attorney, and if he would like you to speak, I will certainly allow it, Ms. Ledford, but I'm trying to keep this as...
I certainly respect, thank you, first of all, Mr. Chairman, Commission. I certainly respect the points of view of everybody who spoke in opposition. I've dealt with land use matters for a long time. I understand that they are a matter that's close to the heart of the folks that are involved. I'll never criticize anybody who speaks against or in favor of one of these projects. I believe they're all sincere. I would, however, suggest that there are some common themes when you go to these zoning hearings, mostly from those who are against. The road's always a problem. Well, State Road 100 is an arterial, folks. It's a state classified arterial roadway. It's going to have traffic. If you look in your staff report, it is not considered to be a constrained road at this point. It has an acceptable level of service, and it is projected to have an acceptable level of service with the traffic count that this project might generate. I understand, it's crowded. People don't want to drive it, but the fact of life is it's an arterial, and it's going to have traffic, and unless someone on a pretty broad level is going to say there's not going to be any more development that will put any more cars on State Road 100, you're going to have this same complaint anytime anybody comes before you. It's a personal complaint. And at some point you have to look to the objective standards to decide whether or not it's a complaint that justifies turning down a PUD. And the objective standard is this road is operating at an acceptable level of service, and it will even after the traffic that this proposed part will generate. With regard to compatibility, I've never attended a hearing where those on the other side thought that the proposed use was compatible with the uses that are already there. Never. But if you look at your staff report, when it discusses your future land use element, which is agriculture, the impacts, when it references other RV parks, it addresses intensity, the consistency of the use with the other uses in the area from an objective standard. I understand from a subjective standard, you don't want it next to you because it's a change, and none of us like changes. None of us. That's why I've got some of the same suits I had, those that I haven't outgrown from 30 years ago. I don't want new ones. But the point is that from an objective standard, it's there. The sinkhole, it's already been noted that there's a sinkhole. Her preliminary conversations with Department of Health are that she can't put anything within 200 feet of that sinkhole. And there has to be features of the land that are such so that it guards against effluent seeking into that sinkhole. Now, I'm not an expert on the aquifer. I don't think anybody who spoke is. So what that sinkhole is or isn't and where it goes, I don't know. But again, no doubt Florida's got a water problem. I mean, I think we all know that. But are you going to stop all development because every additional person that turns a faucet on is potentially going to impact your water well? Not objectively, you can't. Not by your guidelines, you can't. And then the septic tank and the wells. If you look at the staff report, she has to meet concurrency standards where those specific issues are addressed, and the science of the matter dictates what she can and she can't do. This is a land use decision right now. The technical details, the geotechnical details, they will be addressed by your Development Review Committee. And then finally, unified control. My understanding of it over the last 47 years is that it has to be on, the property's under one ownership. This property is. The deed restrictions, it's funny to me. Two people who spoke at the Planning Commission talked about activities on their property that violate the restrictions as I read them. And then the one gentleman got up and talked about the sale of used fencing from the adjoining property today. So on the one hand, you say these are very sacred and often observed and well-enforced deed restrictions, and on the other hand, you talk about everybody who's violating them. That's why deed restrictions and their viability and their effectiveness are for a judge to decide, not the county commission. The principles that decide and determine whether 20-year-old deed restrictions are still applicable, those are legal principles for a judge to determine. We wouldn't ask you to put yourself in that role. So from our perspective, again, the criteria that you're to look to in deciding whether to approve a PUD have been addressed. Your staff has found them to be consistent, and we've not heard any testimony or evidence to contradict staff in a meaningful fashion. We just ask you to approve the PUD. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think I've already asked, is there anybody else that wants to speak? So we'll move forward with it at this time. And the chair will entertain a discussion at this point, but I'd just like to remind the commission that this is not an issue that needs to be done by a motion. This is an issue that needs to be done by the ordinance and regulations that we have in place. So if whoever decides to make a motion for or against, please do it because it is or is not consistent with the area or for a reason that would make it not consistent with staff recommendation. Don't say that I just believe it shouldn't be out there, because that's not what we're here for today. It's not an emotional response. It's a land use issue. And unless you can go against the staff recommendation, then you need to state why you are if you are. So is there any discussion at this point?
Chairman, if I may, real quick, just a reminder, we have to schedule a second BOCC hearing for this item.
We'll do it as part, well, we don't do a motion to approve today. We do a motion to move it forward today or not, and then to a time when we're going to do it.
Correct, yes, sir. And if there was any modifications that you'd like to see before it comes back to you.
Okay. Okay. Chair will entertain discussion or a motion.
I need to ask a question.
Certainly,
Don't mind.
Commissioner.
So we're not going to move, we're not going to forward this for approval or denial today, is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct. There will be no approval or denial today. There will just be a discussion and a determination when you'll hear it again. And then if you would like to see any amendments to the text that's been provided to you.
But wouldn't you say that moving it forward would be an approval of some kinds act? Because otherwise we'd just kill it today and be done with it.
I'm going to defer to Rich on that one.
So
There's
the
no common sense anymore in government?
Leave that question unanswered, but so you have the two public hearings just in case other people want to come out at a different time based upon the input that they hear from your discussion today.
You didn't answer the question.
I said you move it forward, even if you would deny it, so that there's two opportunities for a public hearing.
So what we're going to do today is just vote to move it forward, and then we'll make the decision at the next meeting, is what you're saying.
Yes, your final approval or denial is at the next.
Okay. Well, at this point,
Chairman,
then the chair will entertain a motion to
Still
move
have a
it.
question.
Yes, sir.
Doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of what we're doing today? We've heard 3 hours of testimony or 2 hours of testimony to only do this again. I mean, I understand that state legislators want more input, but I mean...
Yeah, and this just started. Did a new law come up, or did somebody interpret the old one different or whatever? Because usually we would make the decision at one public hearing, but now we have to have 2 public hearings, and we can't make the decision till the second public hearing, no matter what we want to do. That's just brand new.
No, it's not brand new. That's been the statute.
Well, then we've done it wrong the last 6 years I've been here.
It depends on what it is that's coming before you, because there are certain
I'm trying to be smart, I'm really
No, I
not.
know. There are certain things that allow the planning commission to conduct, or a ZBOA to conduct one of the public hearings. But this is not one of those times.
Well, Mr. Attorney, if we make a motion, aren't we going to say basically staff recommends approval and we support that?
I don't know what your motion's going to be.
I mean, it could be said that way based on what's in our packet right here.
It could be. I mean, it's also a planned unit development, so that application has certain conditions. I mean, it takes into effect setbacks, variances, it doesn't really address the use, even though we talked a lot about that today. So it depends on what your discussion is as to what that motion is. And then that, in turn, could generate further public comment.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we move staff recommendation approval of the application and finds the proposed rezoning from ag to PUD is consistent with the goals, objective, and policy of the adopted comp plan is allowed in the adopted future land use categories. It's not anticipated to adversely affect the orderly development of the adjacent or surrounding properties, as the property is subject to development standards of the Land Development Code and meets the location requirements of the PUD zoning district provided in the LCD and comprehensive plan. And I also recommend that we do this meeting on November 14th at 9 o'clock.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay. What would that discussion be?
All right, so if we move this forward for recommendation, I'm kind of with you. What are we voting on November 14th? The final approval. So it has to be moved forward.
One way or the other.
That's what he said, and has to be moved forward one way or the other. So the motion could have been just that we move it forward to the next meeting and then we make the decision there, or it could be what he said, which is, it could still be turned down at the next meeting.
Okay. I understand the motion, but I'm not sure I'm going to vote for this. So I'll retract my second. If I can, if not, we'll vote on it.
Yes, you can.
I would rather have the motion state that we will move this forward to determine whether we're going to vote for this or not. Since we're evidently probably going to have a lot more public input, we may not. But that's what I would prefer. But I'm prepared to vote on the motion that I seconded.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Pickens, I fully support that and understand your position. I just didn't want to get into the situation where the last motion that was made was based on people in the room that were against it. And if you look at our packet, staff recommends that the motion be made.
I understand that.
And our chairman had asked me, or asked us to make sure that we explain ourselves properly. So I just use the staff recommendation. So thank you, sir.
Okay, so you withdraw your second?
Yes.
Okay. So motion dies for lack of a second unless there's another second. Is there another second? Seeing not a second, okay, the chair will entertain a motion. Commissioner Adams, did you have a comment first? You just mashing your button to have fun with me?
I would have had discussion had that.
Okay. So the chair will entertain a motion. What do you want to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move it forward to the November 14th at 9 o'clock.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second that we move the case forward to the next meeting at 9 o'clock or soon thereafter as can be heard.
Correct.
Okay.
And if I may, Chairman, is there anything that y'all want to see differently, or are you happy with what's been presented?
Not what the motion was. So.
Okay.
Motion's take it forward. Okay. Commissioner, well, we got a motion and a second on the floor.
Yes, so I have some
Move it
discussion.
forward. Okay.
So I have some discussion based on what you're saying, and one thing that we've done in PUDs in the past, if this were to in fact pass, and is we have limited the noise or activities at like concert type stuff to certain hours. So I'd like that to be in there, maybe limit to 9 p.m. Something like that. If we were to pass it, then I would like there to be some requirements on the noise for special events, concerts, that type of thing. Just from the feedback that we've heard, I think that's a legitimate thing that we could do because we've done it in the past.
Well, keep in mind that if this passes at some point, that the whole project still got to go to the Development Review Committee. So nobody knows if there's traffic turn lanes or not going to be put in here. Nobody knows all the different things that are going to be put on it from Development Review. And so whatever's in the ordinance currently that would attach to this project would go in at Development Review stage.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to move it forward without having that requirement in there. That's just me. I'm one commissioner. That was my biggest concern from a, if it passes, perspective. And then also, I think we should consider having this particular one at 6 p.m. or in the evening for our second hearing to allow more participation, because I did receive calls and emails from several people, both for and against, that said they would have liked to have seen this in the evening.
Well, the motion on the floor is at 9 o'clock or soon thereafter.
Yeah. So I won't support the motion as it's stated.
That's a surprise to me. Okay, so is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, 4-1. That we move it forward to the next meeting at 9 o'clock or soon thereafter, as we can hear it after presentations, just like this morning. Okay, I told the people at the, that were here a little while ago that we are not going to hear the B on the list until 1 o'clock, so I'm going to adjourn the meeting until 1 o'clock.